Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Lopes Goes Last podcast channel. If this is your first time here, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Do all that good stuff. It just takes a second, and it's a huge help. My friend Dan Lindsay is here. As I mentioned last week, Dan would be coming on the podcast just about every week for the next handful of weeks, talking about all different range of topics. And this week, we are starting a two-part series. So this week and next week, of booking Wrestlemania 40. He's got the podcast hat back on today.
Podcast hat is back on.
The Red Sox hat has been retired, as it should be, because they are stinky, and I can say that because I'm a Red Sox fan, so it's fine. But again, if you haven't seen it, Dan and I actually did an entire fantasy booking series on this channel, booking from the Royal Rumble all the way through WrestleMania for every program that we thought was going to happen. Some of it happened, most of it did not.
Most of it did not.
But that's okay. That wasn't the point. It was, it was just kind of thinking what we wanted and everything. And what this is going to be is we are going to take a handful of matches that are already on the card this week, and we're going to talk about what we think is going to happen, our thoughts on it, maybe even some things that we might have done differently if we find that there should be those things. And then next week, hopefully, considering it's only about a week until WrestleMania at that point, we are going to have a few more matches that are well-defined, ready to go, and we're going to do the rest of those matches. And next week, we're going to be talking about all of the Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, Rock storyline. So that's not this week, but do stay tuned because this week we have 6 fantastic matches that we're going to be talking about. And then obviously we're going to talk about the rest next week, just to give you some logistics there. Dan, I'm super excited. How are you?
Me too. Oh, I'm definitely excited. We got 2 non-title matches of these 6 matches. The rest of them are title matches that we'll be talking about tonight. And it's crazy. This time of year is always fun, always crazy. It's great to see every title get represented on the paper on a PLE for once. And we've talked about this before, where it's like
except for the women's tag title.
So far, as of this recording, they haven't booked something for the women's tag team titles yet. I don't expect them to do it because I feel like anybody they've brought up to challenge the Kabuki Warriors hasn't really done anything, and they just kind of Asuka might even be injured right now. We're not really sure. Reports are really, really iffy right now. So as of this recording, we have no idea. If they are, they're still involved, which we'll definitely talk about with the damage control versus Bayley storyline right now, to where it's like they may not give them a title match. I don't know. I hope they do, because again, it's like every other title is represented at WrestleMania right now, as it should be, because it's 2 nights. Right. Not all PLEs have room for all of them, which we get. We understand. Gunther has had some things where we haven't seen the IC title match defended on out of the country PLEs. We have seen on some, but not all, in the US, but not international, and other things. It's like, under the Triple H regime, we have definitely seen PLEs stay to a pretty standard 3.5 hour time frame. So it's like, again, by the time you do entrances and your breaks and whatever other in your video packages between matches and stuff, there's only so much time for matches. The last 2 PLEs, Rumble had the 2 Rumbles, but only 2 other matches. Chamber had 2 Chamber matches and only 2 other matches. Was it 3? There's 2.
Chamber matches and
there's Chamber match, Chamber.
Yep.
Yeah. So them alone have so a regular PLE might give you 5 or 6 matches if there's no gimmick matches within the PLE. But again, it's like, we finally get to see all the titles defended, and what I'm curious is even as we see over the next over the Raw episode that's going to be out this week, and this like SmackDown, and then one more Raw episode. We'll probably might have a little bit more as a go home show, but I'm just really curious to see what other non-title matches we get, because there's some fun storylines. We'll get into this too. Fun storylines to where you could make some matches. You can make some big tag matches. You could just showcase go to one-on-one, depending on how you want to go. But I'm at this point, it's like we know all the titles are booked. So it's kind of what else are we going to see? Because we have 10 matches booked right now on the card as of record. The men's tag titles should be finalized, I believe, after we've probably recorded this episode. So we'll talk about that next week as well.
Yep.
But, that's 10 matches. WrestleManias in the past have been anywhere from 12 or 13 to, I think, maybe pandemic era might have been 15, 16 matches between the two nights. I kind of expect that to be 13, 14 matches. So we shouldn't see too many more matches booked. Obviously, I think the tag match between the 4 Rs is what I'm calling it, the quad Rs. I want to come up with something catchy to do it because we got Roman, we got The Rock, we got Rollins, we got Rhodes. So, help me find something, a way to make that catchy. I don't think we can. I'm probably forcing it way too hard, but that's okay.
That's okay.
But to my point, I think that match, and I was listening to another podcast today, to where he brought this up. The entrances to that tag match between the 4 of those, the entrances alone are probably going to be a half hour.
Yeah, 15, 20 minutes, yeah. It's ridiculous.
Because Rowan's is 10 minutes himself. They put the whole segment of Roman confronting Rhodes on SmackDown this past Friday. They put that whole segment on. I skipped through about the first 3.5 minutes of it and it was still on Roman's entrance. Yeah. And then they cut to commercial, not in the clip that they posted, but they cut to commercial on the broadcast, and then Rhodes comes out, and that's another 2 minutes. I don't think it was 6 minutes, maybe even more, maybe even 7 or 8 minutes before anybody said a word to the other person. You posted this whole segment. You could have cut it right out when they started talking to each other.
For sure. Yeah, no, very, very long.
But anyway, we're already off topic. We haven't even started.
Hey, that's how it goes on this
all
podcast.
I'll say, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me back on.
Of course, man.
Appreciate doing these with you. These have been a lot of fun. I think we'll have some different opinions in this one, which I think this makes better, because I think we're looking at such a wrestling world right now where it's so many of these matches and storylines can go a certain way, go another way. As you mentioned, we did that whole fantasy booking series leading up to, we started that right at the beginning. We started that a little before. We started that not long after SummerSlam, I think, or not SummerSlam, Survivor Series.
Right.
And then we booked through up to right now, and I think just about every storyline that we thought might go a certain direction, I don't think has gone any, and I don't think any storyline we thought it might go that way has gone the way we thought it might. Outside of maybe the Jimmy and Jay match.
Yep, that happened.
That might be the only thing that's hey, this might happen, and it was officially booked the other week.
I also had Cody versus Roman.
Yeah, I guess I should have said that outside of Cody Roman, which was not expected how we were to get to that too, which was
how we got there. Yeah, not even close, but at least the end is kind
of
end.
Yeah, the end result is what we thought it would be, but outside of those two, it's and that's partly due to injuries. CM Punk, I think changed a lot of plans.
Yeah, spoiler, neither of us had CM Punk anywhere near that show. Not even remotely close to being near that show.
Which is unfortunate, but I think that just, to me it's when Punk is ready to come back, and I think we were talking about that. Maybe Money in the Bank is a hair too soon, but if it's not Money in the Bank, we could, Berlin or for sure SummerSlam, we'll see Punk again. So that's not far down the road already. It's only a couple months away. And I'm more excited than I thought I'd be about that, which we've discussed as well. This is a great time of year. Again, a lot of storylines that are happening that we didn't think were happening, but I'm excited about them nonetheless.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited to not just talk about what's going to happen this week, but obviously next week where we said we're going to have the Roman Cody stuff. We'll have that entire tag match. We're also going to talk about Gunther Sammy next week, the men's tag, and then whatever other matches. So hopefully you guys look forward to that. But this week, we've got all the women's matches and a bunch of other really, really fun matches, the U.S. title and all that stuff. So I'm excited to kind of see where you're going to go with it. I think certainly with a lot of this, it's different than most people expected. I think if you'd have said that Randy Orton would be one of the people facing Logan Paul for the U.S. title at WrestleMania, I think we, not necessarily would have been disappointed because we all love Randy, but at the same time, it's but
LA Knight.
But LA Knight, yeah. So it's like a whole. It's like, is it a triple
Right.
threat? Yes, but not with LA Knight. And you'd be like, what the? Why? Like, is he fighting for the world title? No. So it's like it would be a little, but I like where they're going with it, and I think we're gonna get some fun stories out of it. So I'm really excited to just kind of see where this goes.
Yeah. Let's kick things off with speaking of LA Knight, let's talk about his match. I think that's. I think of we're looking at a non-title match, this is about as good of an opponent as you can get to help, just continue to strengthen the persona of LA Knight. Every time we see AJ Styles, like Friday, the home invasion angle on Friday, that was so weird and wacky, but it was funny at the same time. And it's like, he's just out there honking the horn. I'm going, yeah, honk, yeah. I loved it. I loved it. And I mean, I wish I would have, latched on to LA Knight when he was in the Indies, TNA a lot and stuff. And same with Styles, honestly, because, so I think that's interesting, too, how they're kind of facing each other. They've ran in the same organizations at separate times.
Sure.
Obviously Styles was, in other indie programs outside of TNA, but, at the same time, it's cool. I think there's a couple little things there, But, I mean, AJ Styles, he was fit and jacked when he came back from his injury to get involved in the Fatal 4-Way for Rumble. But he's even more jacked after Friday night, it looked like. He was sitting in his gym doing some kind of interview or whatever, but I'm just like, the dude's twice as huge as it was when we last, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. It certainly seems like that, yeah.
Probably pumping the steroids a little bit, obviously.
Yeah.
It's not like anything WWE has anything against, really don't really ban anything with that. So, I'm not saying anything about that, but at the same time, I see how big he is and how big Orton is, and I was thinking those guys are getting jacked just to go a few rounds with Roman Reigns at some point, and they're both in completely different programs outside of Roman right now, and maybe that's why they got jacked like they did, because LA Knight's not a small guy either, so I'm hoping for just some good old slobber knocking between these two guys, honestly.
Good old slobber knocking. Yeah, I agree. Like we just mentioned, I think there's still a modicum of disappointment that LA Knight's not going to get his WrestleMania moment. Yeah. We've all waited. Nobody's waited as long as him for a moment like that, certainly. Those of you who do not know, I think he's 40, 41 at this point. He's not young. He has been around for quite a while, yes. And so we're really hoping to get that crowning moment. If it's not at WrestleMania, then I'm hoping it's soon after in front of a crowd that will appreciate it.
Yeah.
Not to say that obviously the Philly crowd wouldn't have appreciated it. Of course they would have, but certainly we don't want it to be on a small house show or something like that. We want that crowning moment to be huge. I still think inevitably LA Knight's going to be the guy that beats Logan Paul. Spoiler for later, but. I think it really all starts with this match and how it goes. So I will just kind of throw out there. Obviously, you can retort and you can give me your thoughts after. But I think this is LA Knight's match. I don't see any world where AJ Styles comes out on top here. I think certainly if they would have had let's say if they were to have had a match at Elimination Chamber, I could have seen AJ maybe winning that by some dirty shenanigans or something like that, or what have you. But I think on the grandest stage of them all, I think LA Knight's got to take the win. I don't see a world where he doesn't, and I think that will not fully give him the moment that we all wanted, but at the very least he'll be winning a big time one-on-one match at WrestleMania. He'll have his he'll have his hand raised at the end, and his music playing. So I think that's at least something. So I can't see a world where he doesn't win this match.
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree with that. I think it's a good spot for both these guys to have a match against each other. My booking, I put Styles against Roman on WrestleMania.
Would have been a little better for him, I would say. Yeah, than LA Knight.
So it's so to see these guys who we thought might have both been in some kind of title picture, one way or the other. To see them face off, I think is kind of cool. I think it honestly could even harken back to a little bit of what we had between Cena and Styles when Styles first appeared on the scene, because you got the fans like both these guys. A lot more behind Knight, and I honestly was curious what you thought. Do you think the hype for LA Knight has died down some, or What's your?
I mean, I think a little bit, sure, but I don't think the passive yearning for LA Knight's success has gone away. And what I mean by that is obviously when he was in that program with Roman Reigns or when he was winning that Battle Royal at SummerSlam or in Money in the Bank, I think everybody was like, we want LA Knight to win right this second. He's our guy right now. But I don't think the outpouring of love from fans has died down in general. But I do think that there's no longer that sense of urgency. Mm-hmm. Because I think after a while, it's like, it's like a dog sitting at the table begging for food. Well, if you just ignore them long enough, they'll walk away, right? Like that's kind of the deal where we're like, all right, well, you're ignoring us. Well, we're just gonna latch on to something else, and that something else is really the Cody stuff. I think for most people, right? There's some other people that are latching on to some other stuff, but for the most part, that's the pressing need right now. Is like almost like once Cody said that he wasn't gonna fight Roman at Mania. Everybody said nope, and they all jumped over there, and that was the urgent thing now. Yep. It was like, we have to fix this problem, and LA Knight naturally just kind of faded a bit into the background. But I think that once he wins at WrestleMania, you can put him right into another high-profile feud, and he'd be just as hot as he was before because it's urgent again. And I just think right now it's not urgent storytelling like it was before, and it's been kind of cooled down for months. So I think a little bit, but not. I don't think that if you put him in a major feud right now, people wouldn't care as much. I think that they still would.
Yeah, I think they still care. I mean, he's gotten a pretty good pop, or he got a really good pop 2 weeks ago when he appeared on when Styles attacked him. So I mean, people still love him when he shows up. But yeah, I think the story urgency from WWE is not quite there for him right now, and I think that's fine. He's not in a title feud right now, so I think that's okay to not, And in a way, I think it's kind of interesting to see how fans might react to him. Hey, we haven't seen him for 2 or 3 weeks. Oh, we get him this week. We haven't seen him for 2 or 3 weeks. We get him this week. Oh no, we get him Mania against Styles again. I think a good matchup where these guys I think will be great foils for each other.
Yeah.
It's one of those things to where, again, it's like, we got those chants, Cena, Styles in those matches. I think you could almost get, maybe not as much, but again, I think despite the heel turn that Styles has had, he still has a good following. So I think, this could benefit the both of them well. I think this is a night 2 match. I don't know, and I don't want to necessarily like, hey, we're gonna book where these matches are, what night they fall on, etc. But I think this is a nice night 2 match. And honestly, I say that because it's like I almost don't want the LA Knight character to be on the same night card that we're gonna get The Rock, just because the comparisons were drawn pretty early of he's like a cross between Austin and Rock and other wrestlers, which I get that, but I still think he's made some of his stuff his own very well, and I think he's gotten better at making his stuff his own. But and that's kind of why I asked about the storyline, kind of him too, because I feel like they're so focused on The Rock. It's like we don't want 2 similar type of promo guys. We want to have to see them both at the same time. That's kind of why I think I wouldn't be. This could be very easily night 1. I think it's one of those cool down matches. It'll be a great match no matter what, but it'll kind of, they'll give the crowd a good match while they're coming off a really, really, intense match.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but I could see that in like a cool down spot, maybe before a big title match, one of the women's titles, something like that, right in the middle of the night. But again, I think this could be on a night 2. Do you care what night it falls on?
No, and I think definitely by that logic of I don't want him to be on the same show as The Rock, it wouldn't matter because The Rock's going to be on both shows. I think The Rock's going to be
most likely, but he'll be featured more the first night. I feel.
I don't know if he will. I think I honestly think he's going to be featured more on the second night than he is the first. Obviously, he's going to be wrestling on the first night.
Right.
But I think that he's going to have a more heavy presence on the second show than he is on the first. And we'll get into all that next week, I promise. Next week. So check out next week. It's going to be fun. But, I don't really care what night it falls on. I'm leaning, honestly, towards night 1 because I think, at least the way I would picture it, I think you're going to have Seth and Drew open night 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you're going to have one of the women's title matches on night 2.
Yeah.
So, and either one's going to be over huge. Yeah, obviously,
yes.
the big moment for Bayley, and then Becca Rhea speaks for itself.
Yep.
I don't know which one you're going to have when, but
right.
I assume you're going to have either the Logan Paul U.S. title match on night 2 or the Gunther match on night 2, which is going to be a match that's going to probably overshadow yours. And so I think mainly the most important thing from being on night 1 or night 2, I guess if I had to pick one, I'd pick night 1. But I think this match just needs a little bit more to it. Not to say that the story's been bad. I actually like the way that they've told the story in that these two hate each other so much they're traveling all over the gosh darn place just to hurt each other.
Yeah.
I mean, AJ Styles flew all the way across the world just to screw over LA Knight. Like, not cool.
What a great storyline beat that we've never seen before. I don't think we've really ever seen before.
No, we haven't. And then LA Knight drove all the way across the country from wherever SmackDown was, which I think was, I feel like it was somewhere on the West Coast, unless I'm out of my mind. I could be.
Possibly, yeah.
All the way to Georgia, where AJ Styles lives, and attacked him, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that this match needs something more. I think that the standard WWE answer would be a street fight. I think, just like, there's no rules, I'm just going to hurt you, right?
Right.
But I would prefer, based on who's booking it in Triple H and my NXT fandom, I would prefer an unsanctioned match. Like, it's basically the same exact thing, it just sounds cooler. Where, you're like, these guys, I don't care how bad you two hurt each other, the company is not responsible for what happens to you. Gotcha. And LA Knight just got arrested. So you could probably weave those two things. I mean, he didn't. Right. Let me clarify. For those of you who didn't see it, he didn't really get arrested. Storyline, he got arrested. Okay, so let me clarify. He didn't literally get arrested. But yeah, I would prefer like an unsanctioned match of all right, well, you two hate each other so much. This is not on company's hands. You can have your match, but we're not going to sanction this, and we're not going to be responsible if one of you guys breaks each other's necks. Right? So, I prefer that, because I think then that would have a lot more intrigue to it, because the two of them could come out in jeans and shirts and just regular shoes, and they could, carry weapons and hit each other with chairs and just get everything
Speaking
out.
Of chairs, that's where I was actually going to go with this. It's
okay.
I want a chairs match.
A chairs match. Okay, yeah, something, right? I mean, we could have the same general thought of there needs to be something more.
There needs to be one little stipulation added to this, I think, so it doesn't get buried on whatever night it's on.
Exactly.
Because I think just a standard match. The reason I say chairs match is because I have some other ideas for another match that we'll talk about tonight. But and Styles came out and attacked, Styles came out and attacked LA Knight with a chair a couple weeks ago, and
at Chamber.
Yeah, it's Chamber. That's right. I was thinking of something else. So thank you for the reminder of that. So it's chairs have already kind of been introduced, so might make it a chairs match. Unsanctioned is fine with me too. I think we're both on the same page there of one little extra element. We got 2 more SmackDowns to figure out that element.
Yeah.
Whether that's, one of them coming out and challenging the other, or all just saying, this is the kind of match we're having, or hey, the way you guys keep going at each other, the unsanctioned way is what we do. So that could be very interesting too. So,
but I think it's probably just going to be a street fight. Yeah,
one more layer.
It's probably just going to be a street fight. I mean, I can see a chairs match too. I think that's a bit on the nose for Triple H. Triple H is not normally a guy that is so on the nose with that kind of stuff. So, but I could certainly see that. But I think mainly the reason why I picked an unsanctioned match or a street fight is we haven't really seen LA Knight in a whole lot of fights, right? I mean, obviously he's had wrestling matches and stuff like that. And we know that he's good in the ring and everything, but we haven't seen him really kind of win a fight, really just hardcore. I'm gonna fight this guy,
right,
and I'm gonna beat him up. And I kind of want to see LA Knight put in a little bit of a tougher spotlight than what he has, just to show his side. And I know we don't like comparing LA Knight to The Rock because everybody does it, but this is a positive one. It was kind of like when The Rock fought Mick Foley in that I Quit match. Mm-hmm. It put The Rock in a completely different light. Now, The Rock went a little too far, famously, with that, with all the unprotected chair shots to the head, and he was bleeding under the mask, and he couldn't really talk, and it was a whole mess. Right. I'm not saying go that far. But the point was that at the end of the night, everybody went, oh, The Rock might be a showman, and he might be egotistical, but he can get down and dirty. Right? Yep. Or, like, and again, I'm going to say Mick Foley, like Triple H versus Mick Foley, or Edge versus Mick Foley, or Randy Orton versus Mick Foley. I sense a theme Mick here. Foley was really good at getting guys over with hardcore stuff. So, like, yes. I would like to see LA Knight in a match that's not just a standard wrestling match and actually win. And I also think equally, and you're going to like this, Dan, I think equally, we need to see AJ in more of a vicious role.
Yes,
that's playing off of what has building off of what has happened over the last couple of months. He came back to fight Roman, and he was ticked off and angry. And during that Fatal 4-Way, if you remember, he is the one that introduced weapons. He was beating up guys with a chair, and then obviously Ace attacked LA Knight with a chair. And I think the natural progression is he's in a street fight, and he's going to he's going to beat up LA Knight with weapons there too. All to lose at WrestleMania. And then his first major program after WrestleMania can be with Braun Breaker. And Braun Breaker, that can be your first feud on the main roster with a new, vicious AJ Styles, who's ticked off that Braun Breaker's getting all this hype when AJ's there. And so AJ's going to attack Braun Breaker to try to slow him down. And spoiler alert, it will not work. Braun Breaker that will be his first kind of major, because obviously he's just had a couple squash matches on SmackDown. That can be your first major feud for Braun Breaker on SmackDown right after WrestleMania. I think it makes perfect sense for both sides. It's a natural digression for AJ Styles at this point in his career, and it is the natural progression for Braun Breaker, and that can be he's a perfect first opponent for Braun Breaker in my ears, man. Exactly, that's why I said you would like it. So I think that this match, back to LA Knight and AJ, I think it needs some kind of street fight, unsanctioned match, something. Yeah. Extreme Rules. I mean, I wouldn't like Extreme Rules necessarily, but something along those lines to get it going. Chairs match and all, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I mean, we already have a ladder match. I'm going to introduce another. I need stipulation, another match we can talk about tonight. So I think, having another one, here, and all the stipulations being different. That's why I went to chair match. The only other thing that I was kind of thinking before, I was like, no, this needs a stipulation for WrestleMania. The only other thought I had was with this match was having Styles win by DQ with a chair or something like that,
At WrestleMania?
And extend this to like Backlash or something. But that's why I was like, Knight needs to go over at Mania. We can't push Knight over at I hate to say a random PLE, but we can't push Knight over on an afterthought PLE that's a month after Mania. It's like, if we're gonna put him over now, it has to be now.
Yeah.
So that's where I got like, well, let's just do a stipulation. We only have one stipulation match as it is on the card as of record right now. So I think. Whether it's chairs, whether it's street fight, whatever you've brought up there, I think that'll be great. And I think we're both in agreement. We're both picking LA Knight.
LA Knight for sure. Yeah, and I think that's a slippery slope, man. I've seen so many times over the years where they try to like slightly delay crowning somebody, and it just never works. I'm thinking Goldberg in 2005 when he should have won the Elimination Chamber, and they had the absolute idiotic decision to have an injured, cowardly Triple H beat him in the Elimination Chamber after Goldberg had literally eliminated everyone else by himself except for Kevin Nash. I think he got eliminated early in the match, but Goldberg had destroyed everybody, and I mean destroyed everybody in that match. And then Triple H sledgehammer to the head, I win, lol. And then he beat Triple H on the next pay-per-view, but no one cared because the moment had already passed. Right. Or, more recently, The Fiend, where the moment at Hell in a Cell was right there. You could crown him right now, and then it was the worst thing anybody had worst booking decision at this point in history that I can remember. But then he won at the next pay-per-view, but no one cared because the moment had passed.
Yeah.
And I could go on and on with all these examples. I just think that if you play that game no pun intended, Triple H, it could just get dangerous. Like you're playing with a guy's career, especially at this point in his career. LA Knight's never going to be as hot as he is right now. At least you can't bet on the fact that he's going to be as hot as he is right now. And he's not a young man. Like he is getting to the point where who knows how much longer he's going to be able to go at the level he is. If you're going to push him, you got to push him now.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think we'll see that. Hopefully, LA Knight, beating Styles. You mentioned the street fight. I have another match I think would actually fit street fight a little bit better than those two. I know
where you're going with this. Jimmy and Jay
Uso. I think this match is ripe for a street fight. Part of me is kind of like, this has been a weird build. I don't want to use the word weird though, but it's been a build that kind of took some time off. And we almost kind of got this match because of rumors, in a sense. Jay left. Bloodline, obviously, multiple months ago. Didn't see him for a little bit. Comes to Raw. Kind of, he's redeemed himself to most of the locker room. Obviously, Drew doesn't think so, but among a couple others. But,
Drew's just having a tough time.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. So it's, in a sense, I feel like this match almost is like, oh, the rumors have been out there that people wanted it, so let's make this happen. Which, that's kind of the Triple H way anyway. I think he's gauging a lot of the fans' interest in a lot of stuff a whole lot more than has ever been done. And that could be good and bad, but so far it's been really, really good. But again, there's still enough to come out. Jay is super over right now. I mean, that crowd, you were talking about it when you went to Rumble, how crazy that crowd was. I mean, it was on TV. Nuts. I'm like, oh my, this is the best moment of this whole PLE right now.
Oh, it was, yeah, for sure.
Outside of Cody winning.
Outside
of Cody winning, so second best moment of that PLE. Yeah. Just the way that crowd was, they had the lights lit up. So I mean, they're obviously pushed him to bigger and better things. To me, it's like weird to kind of see these two against each other, because I thought of any tag team, because that's what usually happens to tag teams in WWE. For the most part, New Day is an exception as well. But you work together, you do well together, and then eventually you just get split apart. Sometimes it's because they used a tag match to get one guy over and didn't really care about the other guy. Or the other guy just wasn't that great. And I kind of feel like Jimmy kind of fits that role a little bit, but I feel like Jimmy could probably do the same thing if they decided to put Jimmy on his, trajectory instead of what they did with Jay. If roles reverse, I think it'd be close to similar. Maybe not quite as big as Jay, but, Jimmy's pretty good in his own right, I think, too. And part of me kind of hopes this helps. I honestly kind of hope this match gets us to where Jimmy really starts considering leaving the Bloodline, too. Because as Cody has said in multiple promos, he wants to take everything away from Roman, and that maybe this is part of that, another chink in the armor of that bloodline. And I've thought it interesting too. Ever since we've seen Rock post Rumble involved in all these storylines, Jimmy and Solo have taken a huge backseat, I feel. So I think it's nice that Jimmy gets this match with Jay. Jay called him out. They had a really good back and forth. I believe that was there one-on-one confrontation? That was Raw, right? Week ago?
I mean, it was sort of. I mean, I feel like the only actual time they've been in the ring together has been Jimmy attacking Jay. But I know Jay had like a promo calling him.
Yeah, out, but I mean, they were face to face recently as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. They were. I forgot.
I think that was last week.
No, yeah, I think that was last. Yeah.
So I mean, but that I say that.
Where WWE got its own history wrong. That was really great.
What do you mean? I missed that.
So I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of Jimmy said that Jay convinced Jimmy, or Jimmy had convinced Jay to leave the bloodline when Jay had convinced Jimmy to leave the bloodline, and then Jimmy had reconvinced Jay to leave the bloodline, and then Jimmy rejoined the bloodline.
Yeah.
And so Jimmy never really left the bloodline.
No.
He left for like 2 minutes. Like,
Which is something that I
And so it was like, you just got your own history wrong, where he was like, I'm the one that convinced you to leave. And it's like, no, you weren't. Like,
which I feel like that's one of those things we haven't really ever gotten a full explanation of why Jimmy kind of was like, I'm leaving. Jay's like, oh, I'll come with you. Jimmy's like, nah, I'm going to stay.
That's the thing that bothers me more than anything. I know we're getting off on a side tangent here that doesn't have to do with this match, but like, do you hear his theme song? His theme song literally says, I was born a king, I ran with the pack. They talking family first, I put that in the past. I'm a man, I stand on my own 2 feet against my family tree. He's literally saying, I'm by myself now, in his own theme song, and then he just rejoined the bloodline. Like, he's not by himself, he never was. Like, and it's like, I think the original plan was for him to somehow be some kind of weird heel renegade, but then it just never made any sense, and so they just did the easy thing and had him rejoin the bloodline. I don't know what the plan was there, but yeah, that was real lame. I think everybody would agree that nobody liked the way SummerSlam ended. Not to say that any of us really thought Jay was going to beat Roman.
Right.
But just the way they did it. I think they basically said, all right, well, everybody's just sick of Solo interfering, so I'm pretty sure if we just do Solo interferes lull again, everyone's going to lose their minds. So we're going to have to swerve him just for the sake of the swerve. I don't know what the plan was. But anyway, you continue. I think
wrestling
is weird, man.
Wrestling is weird, but we love it.
We love it so much.
That's what's great. It's just as good as ever it's ever been.
Oh, for sure. At least in the last 20 years, for sure.
Yes. I think this feud is almost a little bit more right for a street fight, maybe an unsanctioned match, but a street fight, just because the love loss is. It's not there anymore between these two guys. I would love to see Jimmy and Jay reunited one day, down the road within the next year or two even. I don't know. Probably won't happen. I mean, they're such a good tag team together. It's like the New Day. It's like they kind of try to separate the New Day out, but they never really did. And injuries obviously happened, but it's like the New Day just was always had to be the New Day. Like Kofi had his run, but they were right there beside him the whole time. So it's like. That's why I wouldn't mind seeing them back together. But Jay has really, I think, held his own. He's got a lot of great storylines down the road for him.
He sure does.
You got Drew there. I think you could have Sammy there as friend turned foe somehow. Even there's a lot of possibilities for him. We've talked about this before. Of like you have your main eventers, but then you got to pull the couple contenders, but then you got to build a bigger pool below. And I think Jay's just about on that cusp to be put into that contender for either the IC title or the World Heavyweight Championship, one of the two. But I think at the same time, again, street fight. I think, no love lost between these guys. I can't imagine. The only thing I think if they didn't go that route, I think you could use some kind of, if you didn't have a stipulation, I think you could use like Solo or something else to kind of put a DQ and blow this off at Backlash again. I think that might be a little more probable, or maybe not even Backlash. Drop it for a little bit again, then pick it back up at another big PLE. I don't know. Where do you think this goes? I guess.
So I have a direction that I think would cause the most intrigue. Not necessarily what I think's going to happen. I think what they're going to ultimately just do is probably have Jay win. I think that they'd be missing a big opportunity if they did have that. Yeah. But I understand why they would, because Jay, like you mentioned, all the reasons. Jay's super hot right now. Jay's the guy that everybody cares about. Jay's the one that's going to have to have the stronger push when you're coming out of this. Like, I completely understand all the reasons why I would have Jay, or why they would have Jay win. I would actually have Jimmy win. But I wouldn't have Jimmy win conventionally. I would actually have it be basically a hit job, where I would have it just be a normal one-on-one, and, eventually, Jay's going to put Jimmy away, and Jimmy just is so cowardly, he pulls the referee in front of him, and Jay hits the referee with a super kick, and the referee goes down, and then, of course, that's when the bloodline hits, and I don't just mean the bloodline like just Solo, I mean like Solo, Rock, Roman, everyone. And they just take...
Any other cousins?
I mean, no. No, not yet. No Jacob Fatu yet. But, and they just dismantle Jay. And I don't mean just attack him and, punch him. I mean, they take a chair and wrap it around his arm and hit him with another chair on the arm while one of them stepping on it, just bang, 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 just over and over to where, he's just screaming and wailing and crying and, begging for mercy, please stop, you're killing him. But then you start to see Jimmy realize that that's his brother again, where I think he's lost that's his brother. No matter what happens, they're twins. They can be mad at each other. Brothers can fight, but they're always going to be brothers. And after a while, you actually see Jimmy start to have remorse and fear. And then he looks up and he realizes, oh my God, I did it again. I'm with this tyrant. I fell for it. What have I done? But Jimmy doesn't fully come around to that yet. And The Rock and Roman tell him, just, pin him, we did it for you because you couldn't get the job done. And they're berating him, and Jimmy just covers him and beats him. And it's a whole... Now, obviously, you can get the logistics right with the you can't get DQ'd and stuff. I don't know, whatever you want to do with that.
Yeah.
But it's... I think then, when night 2 rolls around, I think obviously you're going to have the bloodline be a part of that story, and I think Jay is a big part of it. As you saw on this past SmackDown, when he showed up for Cody. He's one of the main players. And so I think that's when you can start to see Jimmy's hesitation. And Jay can start to plead with his brother, come on, come home to me. This isn't right.
Right.
And just
kind of like I was saying,
and start planting the seeds of dissension and start planning and figuring all of it out. And then hopefully eventually what that means is you're going to down the road get an Usos tag team run again. And that would be lovely.
Yes.
But I think you're missing a huge opportunity if you just have Jay win. Because one... I like the story that I just told for all the intrigue. I think that would be the most intriguing option. Is starting to have Jimmy go, oh man, what have I done?
Right.
That is my brother. That's my twin. Because it's one thing to be siblings, right? Like Rock and Roman, or Roman and even Jimmy and Jay, right? They're cousins. It's another thing to be a twin.
Yeah.
I don't even remotely know what that's like to be a twin, but I can imagine that.
You always hear about connections and just being able to feel that they were
feel each other's pain and just all this stuff. I can't imagine if Jay is not beaten so badly that at a certain point Jimmy, who's his twin, wouldn't go, oh man, I've made a big mistake here. And so I think that, first of all, I just like that story. Second of all, I think that when you kind of have the Avengers assemble, as I'll put it, and I'll explain everything next week, I think that you start to have a real chance to tell all the individual stories and weave them all together.
Yeah.
And I think that if you just have a Jimmy and Jay match at WrestleMania, which is huge. It's only the third time brother versus brother has ever happened at WrestleMania. And I think they alluded to that on the last Raw.
Yeah.
That's huge, but I think that you're still not giving that story justice if you just leave it there. I think that there needs to be more. I think that there needs to be follow-up. And I think that the way to do it is to really plant those seeds. And so for me, I'm having Jimmy win. Not conventionally, not to where anybody's going to really even care that Jimmy won the match.
Yeah.
It's not going to matter.
Because in that version, you're not gonna hurt Jay in that sense.
No, you're not.
You're gonna make it more sympathetic, where people are gonna probably get out around him even more if you do a beatdown like that.
Exactly, and so I think that it just makes the most sense. Now again, are they gonna do that? Maybe not. I hope that. I mean, Triple H does have phenomenal foresight with all these things, so I'm hoping that there's something like that.
And you gotta imagine Heyman's. He's obviously has a hand in how some of the all the matches with Roman go, probably with The Rock as well. I just gotta imagine he's got his hands all over this, help producing this match as well. Probably maybe even Seth and Drew at this point, the way that's going. And
I also think that this match needs to happen on night 2.
Yeah, that was my next question for you. Read my mind.
Very importantly. And the reason, I mean, I can't really say too much without spoiling
that's
things
fine.
for next week.
I think leaving it at night 2. I think what you alluded to earlier.
So I'll say this. I'm not gonna spoil anything. I think that it is integral because I'm sure that some of you are saying, well, Tyler, if the bloodline came down and interfered, wouldn't you think that Cody and Seth and all of them would come out and help Jay? If it's on night 2, no, I do not. And there's very specific reasons for that I will not get into.
Yeah.
So in order to explain that away, it needs to be on night 2. Because if it's on night 1, I have no justification as to why that wouldn't happen, if that makes sense.
And do you think, so I'm personally thinking...
If you want to know what I'm talking about, watch next week!
Plug. We're gonna plug next week. I
don't know why I got so angry there. I'm so sorry. I don't know what that was.
I'll forgive you this time.
Thank you.
Part of me is kind of going back and forth too. Like, what night would this be better on? Because I think whatever night it's on affects how the result of that match could play into other matches. And I think everybody knows about like if Roman and The Rock win the tag match night 1, we get Bloodline rules night 2, and that's gonna dictate who probably interferes in night 2, which we'll get into next week. Mm-hmm. But I'm going back and forth. To me, though, like this match is like start of the night energy. I don't know about you, but I feel like this match, whichever night it lands on, like I hope it's like the match that kicks off that night.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's on night 2, it's not gonna be. I think it's still gonna be Seth Drew, and again, I have a way to kind of make it all make sense and be really good and blend it all together, even with the Seth Drew stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not gonna have Jay or Jimmy interfere in that match. That would just be ridiculous. Although I guess Bloodline could interfere in that and it'd be fine. But I don't.
Jay would make sense there.
Yeah, possibly. I would maybe have Solo at least, maybe not Jimmy. But it's one of those things where like I have a reasoning as to why it's not. I would actually have it on 3rd on night 2.
Okay.
I'd have Seth and Drew open. I'd have whatever match you want to put in between, I guess, and then Jimmy and Jay on right after that. So that's kind of how I would do it. And again, the reasons I will explain it all next week. So just stop yelling at me.
Yeah, that's fine. So you have Jimmy winning that match. I do. I'm picking Jay.
Yep, it makes the most sense just standard wise, but
I know. I think in a street fight type of sense, that's why I'm kind of going with Jay. I'm going with that street fight stipulation. I think Jay takes that, because I don't think we'll get any interference from there. Maybe Solo, but I think in a street fight type of sense, like Jay's gonna just be so hyped and everything. He doesn't care who comes out. He's taking up whomever comes down, family or not. It's just like Jay's like, this is my moment, my night. I'm standing alone. I have bigger things ahead planned. Come with me or not, I don't care. I'm beating you down tonight.
Yeah.
And whoever comes my way.
Yeah, and I think that there is a really interesting opportunity that if they had booked this a little bit sooner. Right, if they'd have really capitalized after the Rumble instead of waiting until after Chamber. Or was it right before Chamber? I can't remember.
I think it was after Chamber.
So like they waited so long to kind of put the pieces together here.
I blame The Rock.
Fair enough. But I think that it could have been a really cool stipulation. It could have been a really cool idea because my idea of this way back when was an I Quit match, where if Jay says I quit. Like either basically it's whoever quits WrestleMania. If Jimmy quits, he cannot be in the building for the rest of the night. He's gone. He's kicked out, which means he can't interfere in the main event. Jay, if he quits, he has to get kicked out of the building. He can't interfere in the main event. So that's a huge coup for the Bloodline because that's one of Cody's allies gone. Yep. But of course they didn't do any of that. But I think that would have been a really cool,
still a little bit of time,
brother versus brother in an I Quit match. Now I know I Quit matches can be a little bit boring because there's every 2 seconds you punch somebody. Yeah, ask him if he quits. Like, all right, that's enough. Like, it's like it can get repetitive after a while. It's like last man standing matches. After 15 minutes, every single move is. We're going to have to stop and count to 10 now. Yeah. So unless they do it really, really...
8, 9, get up.
Oh, punch. Count him again. Oh, he's up at 9. Punch. Count him again. Like, That's why I don't really like last man standing matches. There's only been a few that I really like.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, Brock versus Roman might have been my favorite one of all time with the tractor when he picked up the ring. Oh, that was so good.
So out of this world moment.
So good. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about here. But I think that, again, I know I Quit matches could be a bit boring, but I think if you add that stipulation to it and you put it early on night 2, you could have really had like an added thing of like, man, this whole everything is just culminating, and that's just going to make that main event even more powerful than it already is, and it's already the biggest main event in WrestleMania history. No offense to Rock versus Roman, or not Rock versus Roman, Brock versus Roman to unify the titles a couple years ago.
Right.
They called that, literally the announcement was, this is the biggest WrestleMania main event of all time! Like, that's literally the build and how they introduced the match. It's not anymore because this one's beating it. And so I think you could have made it even more powerful, but obviously they didn't do that, so we're going to have to stick to what seems to be just a standard one-on-one match, which I guess I'll take. And plus, unless I'm out of my mind, Owen Hart was the heel versus Bret, and he was victorious. Matt Hardy was the heel versus Jeff Hardy, and he was victorious. I'd say the heels and the brother versus brother at Mania go 3-0.
Very interesting. Thanks for that.
I think. There. Now, I could be wrong on that. I know Owen Hart was victorious, but I suppose Owen Hart could have been the good guy at that point, just for that match, and then Bret could have. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure Owen was the bad guy. Unless I'm nuts. Somebody, if somebody knows, correct me. But I'm pretty sure he was the bad guy.
I'll fact check you later.
I haven't seen that match. I'll have to double check.
So you're picking Jimmy. I'm picking Jay.
Correct.
Keeping in semi-bloodline territory, Seth and Drew next.
Yep.
It's round 3 in a PLE for these two,
and round 4 overall.
Yeah, and it's gonna be exciting. Crown Jewel, had the cash in, but not there. And Rollins won. I think with the roll up that night, Rollins won that day 1 on Raw. So I think it's. Which one am I missing then? If this is round 4.
They had a title match on Raw.
Oh, outside of day 1. Okay, or New Year's, whatever.
Yeah, I remember when it was Drew and Seth, and Drew was about ready to win, and then Damian Priest came down and tried to cash in, and then Drew Claymore kicked him and slid into the ring and got curb stomped. And then the next week, Drew was like, "Dude, why didn't you cash in?" This is a terrible Scottish accent. "Why didn't you cash in? I sounded like Shrek." I don't know.
You sound like Schwarzenegger.
Why didn't you cash so sorry. No, it was like, why didn't you wait until the match was over, you idiot? Like, you screwed us both.
Yeah.
Like, that was, that was the week before,
Priest had such bad timing.
I don't know why.
Sammy stole the case, and then didn't Jay, steal the case or something in one of these matches too? I feel like that happened twice to Priest.
Probably.
Trying to cash in on these two.
I have no idea. But yeah, just wild stuff. But yeah, it's round 4 overall over the last 6 months or so. So yeah.
November is kind of when this feud start. When they had the first one, so it's been continuous since then.
Wait a minute, day 1 was a Raw.
Yeah.
Then I guess it is round 3, because I'm thinking of the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, my fault. Never mind.
No, that's fine.
It is round 3.
I missed one.
No, it's round too many. That's how many there's been. Yeah.
I think it's been enough time since the last face off each other to do this again. I think there's, because I feel like if they would have tried to go at this match at Rumble or even Chamber, it had just been these guys again. But the way this has been built, on one hand we have Seth who's like, yeah, I've beaten Drew 2 other times. I've got this in the bag. He doesn't care. Spoiler alert, that's going to probably be his downfall, personally. And Drew has just been doing marvelous, wonderful, great work as a heel. It's like he gets more and more heelish every single week. He's called out Punk so many times in Raw, and I love it. What is Drew call himself?
DM Punk, Drew McIntyre Punk.
Yeah, DM Punk now, and so he's got. I love the Tombstone. I love the Tombstone T-shirt for 2 reasons. Yeah. One, because it's making fun of Punk, and 2 is actually a reference back to an Arrow thing, which I'm a very big fan of from CW.
Sure.
So double meanings there from for there, and which Stephen Amell, he has WWE ties, so everything's full circle.
There you go.
With Cody Rhodes.
Yep. Cody was a big part of that show.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. And then, anyway, sorry. We tell people to come for the fantasy bookings. Hopefully they stay for all our rabbit trails.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm here. That's all that matters.
The big thing I think about this match to me is I hope this goes long, like not like half hour long, not even maybe not but that 15-20 minute range because like and to me when we both we're both on the same page. I think of this needs to kick off night 2. I think for different reasons, but kick off night 2. This seems like the perfect match to kick off night 2. I don't think you can really pencil anything in outside of maybe Jimmy and Jay, but this has to kick off night 2. I feel Seth is going to get a beating in that tag match, so like having to be the first one out, for night 2, isn't going to help him. But I think that just improves the legend of his character if he goes a good 15-16 minutes with Drew, because Drew's not a puny little guy over here. We all know this too. So it's like Drew can take a beating. He can give a beating really good. I'm hoping to see, I'm going really deep on this one, but I'd love to see Rollins attempt multiple pedigrees, not hit any of them, miss a curb stomp or two, but finally hit a curb stomp. Drew still kicks out of that. On the other hand, Drew, gets a couple Glasgow kisses in. He gets a couple claymores. He attempts like 2 or 3 claymores, misses on one. We see Rollins pull out a rare Falcon Arrow. Rollins clutching his back the whole time, or at least like the latter half of the match. But then Drew just, I just want to see this. I just want to see another slugfest here. This one doesn't need stipulations by any matter, because these two can just put on a great match. I think, and like Drew got his moment in WrestleMania 36. For the pandemic WrestleMania, but it's just like, and yeah, he was also in the heavily featured in the next year's Mania when he lost the title. But I'm just like, I get like as angry and as heel he's been, I get it, because it's like I haven't been fully crowned as a top person in WWE. He feels, and I feel like he's very justified in that. So I kind of hope he actually gets that moment this year. What. Do you see this match going like a long time?
Like I mentioned, I think it's going to open the show. I think it's going to be one of the most important matches on the entirety of the 2-night card. I think that this is going to really further probably a good 3 to 4 stories all at once, all in this one match. Now, it doesn't need, like you said, it doesn't need to go a half an hour long. I think that the entirety of the segment of the match needs to go a half an hour, but not the match itself. And so. Here's what I envision. Okay, so I envision obviously a great match. I envision Seth walking into opening night 2 with a bit of kind of re-injured knee and back. His knee is going to be rough. His back's going to be rough from obviously wrestling in the main event the night before. Drew's going to take advantage eventually of also some more distractions from the bloodline, whether it's music being hit, whether it's somebody actually coming down and physically interfering, whatever you guys want to do with that. And I think Drew is going to obviously take advantage this time. But there's a few things that I would need to happen for kind of what I envision happening after Mania. I think that CM Punk needs to be on commentary for this match. I think that it is
somebody brought up today. I saw something brought up today where slide him in maybe as a guest referee, or as a secondary referee. Or something
perhaps, but I
like the commentary idea.
I think the commentary would make more sense to the story that I'm saying. Because I think that if you have CM Punk be the referee, Drew's going to get screwed, and Drew needs to win. I think that if you have Drew lose again, I'm pretty sure it would just go against every fiber of everyone's being, and it would just destroy him. And so I think he's got to win. And I think he's got to win by actually pinning Seth without somebody actually physically interfering. I think that he's got to physically overpower Seth. He's got to take advantage of the injuries. Seth's hubris and his want to kill the bloodline did in fact cost him the world title. I think that's the story. But CM Punk needs to be on commentary. And the reason why is because Drew McIntyre is going to win the match. He's going to have his huge moment. All the pyro's going to go off. He's going to ask for a microphone. He's going to get on the microphone, and he's just going to say one simple thing. I would like to dedicate this victory to CM Punk, and raise the title over his head as CM Punk sits in the commentary chair and stares up at Drew with hatred. And then from behind, he will get hit in the head with a briefcase by Damian Priest. He will get knocked out of the ring. The rest of Judgment Day will come in and beat the crap out of Drew McIntyre. Seth Rollins will be long gone from the ring. He won't care. CM Punk's going to sit there and watch as right in front of the announce table, the Judgment Day are a pack of vultures, and they pick him apart and beat him to a pulp. And here's the coolest part. Drew's been talking a lot of smack about CM Punk the last few weeks, hasn't he? Mm-hmm. He's going to get beaten so bad, they're going to put him through the announce table. It's going to be destroyed. He's going to roll over onto his stomach, over towards CM Punk. And as Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Dominic Mysterio are grabbing Drew McIntyre to drag him in the ring, he's going to grab CM Punk's jacket and say, help me, please help me, Punk, please! Because he just wants that moment so bad that he even wants CM Punk to save him. He doesn't care, he just needs the moment. And CM Punk's going to shake his head and not save him. And he's going to get dragged in the ring, and he's going to get pinned, and he's going to lose his title. Damian Priest walks out as World Heavyweight Champion. Drew loses the belt. Seth loses the belt. Punk gets, I guess, a modicum of revenge on Drew for all the stuff he's been saying. Damian Priest gets a moment that is enormous for him, and it's going to look like he is just, he knew what he was doing, because guess what? I mentioned it earlier. Drew said, why didn't you wait until when I was beat to hell and dying and not paying attention and let my guard down? We could have had a one-on-one match. And guess what Damian Priest did? He waited until after the match. His guard was down. He did exactly what Drew wanted.
Yep.
Or not wanted, but said.
Yeah. And
Drew's going to want Punk to save him, and Punk's not going to do it. And so he's going to be furious at Damian Priest for doing what he did. But he's also going to still be, and that coward Punk wouldn't get in there and help me. It's his fault. And he's just going to keep losing it. And then you're going to have, I presume, a triple threat between Drew, Damian, and Seth. And Drew is going to probably be cost that match by CM Punk, because right around that time, Punk's going to get cleared by the timeline standards that have been given beforehand. Yep. So I think he's going to get cleared, and then you're going to have, okay, well, I just lost my rematch. I don't even care about the world title anymore. I'm just going to beat the hell out of CM Punk. And then your first match back is Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk at whatever pay-per-view is after Backlash. I don't remember what the order is.
I think probably a Saudi match.
It could be. Yeah, it could be in Saudi Arabia. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we have a Saudi. I think it's Backlash, Saudi. Which one will be at the beginning of May? The other one, Saudi, will be at the end of May. Then we have Then we have Money in the Bank, July 4th weekend. Gotcha.
Yeah. So then, it's gonna probably be in Saudi, which I'm not sure how Punk would feel about that, but who knows? Yeah. But I think that's kind of the direction you want to go, or at least I want to go. I don't know how. Maybe you have Drew winning clean, which if you do, good for Drew. I hope he gets that moment, but I think that the good thing about the way I booked it is that he does technically still get that moment. He still pins Seth Rollins. He still wins the title. He still stands on the thing and does his thing. And that was terrible. I'm so screwed.
That's okay.
And all the pyro goes off, and he howls to the freaking sky and just like, yeah, I did it. And he's the conquering hero, and he got to rub it in CM Punk's face because he took his spot, and then I'll take it from him again, because that's how Drew McIntyre works in WWE, and it's just a whole thing. And I think that would just be a brilliant story to tell. Now, you mentioned this earlier, and I want to say this final side thing before I let you get into what you have, but I think, and I've said this before, I don't know if I've said this to you, but I've said this before. In any other era in the history of wrestling, Drew McIntyre is your main guy. You're number one.
Yeah.
He's your John Cena. He's your Cody Rhodes. Yep. He's your Hulk Hogan. But Roman Reigns exists in this world. And so, unfortunately...
And Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes exist, too.
Yeah. And now Seth Rollins and Cody... Right, but I'm talking like 2020, 2021, like when Drew was on Raw holding the company down, it's just because Roman Reigns wasn't there.
Yep.
And it's like, and then Roman showed up and he took the world by storm, and everyone unfortunately kind of forgot about Drew.
Yep.
And it's one of those things.
And that's why I think his heel stuff the last few months is perfect. It's well justified, I think.
Yep. Absolutely. But anyways.
No, I honestly, my thought is the same. Like when we were doing our fantasy booking, I had Priest. I wanted Priest to cash in beginning of the year on a random Raw or something, or at day one, I think is what I was kind of hoping for. Or after, and then obviously that failed, and it's like do an early cash in to make. I was hoping the Fatal 4-Way that we had at Rumble was actually going to be a version of for the World Heavyweight Championship instead.
And who knows what we would have gotten,
right?
If Rollins hadn't,
if
blown up his knee.
Obviously injuries factored in that as well. So it's like, who knows what we got in there. But I'm kind of glad it's progressed the way it has, because as we talked at a lot, just like when do you time that cash in for Priest to make him, harden his heel persona but not hurt him at the same time. I'm gonna kind of go with like. He has to it's almost like he has to cash in right now, because Backlash can be a great cash in. I don't want to cash in on Saudi again because I don't want someone to come steal a briefcase from me again.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Not saying that would happen again.
The boogeyman, what are you doing here?
So
scraping the bottom of the barrel.
I'm 100% with you. I just, a good, long, grueling match to where they're both just wasted, but, Drew just finally hits one more Claymore than Rollins has tried to attempt a curb stop kind of thing. It's that one last one, and Rollins just can't get up anymore. And McIntyre wins. I think in the ring he wins clean, no need for interference. But as soon as he gets his hand raised and was holding that title high and does a celebration, that Judgment Day music hits. Priest is running down, and JD and Finn are ahead of him. Just clearing out any potential, and just kind of watching his back, just make sure Sammy doesn't run down, or Jay doesn't run down, or whomever you want to get, that's been involved in this picture. Rollins doesn't come back and, do something weird or whatever, like they're watching his back. Priest cashes in, hands it, I think Drew could actually go another 2-3 minutes with Priest, I think it's like, Drew's like, I'm not going down without a fight. I just had my moment, man. Come on now.
Yeah, sure.
But kind of like you said, it's like, take advantage. That's what the cash-in should be, is after, weakest moments when they don't think it's going to happen. I'd have Priest cash in and then finally have a successful cash-in. It's been too long. And then I think you can go any direction you want with those two. I wouldn't put Seth in that picture. I think you rest Seth, you put him off, or if you need to blow off this little more bloodline stuff in another month or two, you have him for that. But honestly, if Rollins disappeared till Money in the Bank, I'd have no problem with that. He's well earned some time off and rest. Because, as much as Drew's carried it, Rollins has carried it the last couple of years himself outside of Roman too, so it's like... And he's got some legitimate injuries too. It's like, heal up, man. Like, you probably you've been cleared for this, MCL, ACL stuff, but I think it's MCL. You've been cleared for this stuff, but it's like, you're pretty fresh off that still. It's not like it's been 4 or 5 months. It's like barely been 2 months, and you're out there doing 2 matches. Like, everybody thinks he's crazy for all that stuff. So it's like, if they come, if they run him off for a little bit, I'd have no problem with that. I think, the Punk factor I wasn't really considering. Obviously him on commentary or enforced referee, special referee, whatever, he has some fun with there. Or he just kind of shows up or whatever just to make fun of Punk the next night or whatever. Obviously having him involved in that program. Because my question where I'm left after this is like, what do you do with Priest after that? Like, I think we got some people that could, be challengers. Obviously, the rematch, I think, would happen. I think this is a one-on-one rematch, at Backlash between the two. And maybe that's where Punk kind of, costs Drew a little bit or whatever, or distracts him just enough. And, Priest gets like a 3 or 4 month reign. I don't think you make Priest reign long, but I think you make it to where it's like he's had some solid defenses, and then go off from there or whatever. You let him go back and forth, with the title, or keep him in the picture, keep him as a foil. I think at least a month, at least more than a month would be good for Priest, but I don't think you have to give Priest the title for an extended period of time. I don't think you keep it on him. I don't think you keep it on him until like Survivor Series or something. Personally, but give Rollins some time off. Have those two guys go at it at Backlash. Punk's obviously going to be involved at some point, Money in the Bank or beyond. But I think it's it's time. It's time for Priest to finally cash in. I'm so I feel like I'm jumping on with you, but I find it kind of funny we're both thinking the same. But you've been pretty true to that booking too. Where you've been wanting that sense.
But hey, I think I'm pretty sure, unless I'm out of my mind, I'm pretty sure you had Drew versus Seth at WrestleMania. Did you not?
No, I drew.
Oh no, you had Drew Damien.
Priest. Yeah,
you had Drew Priest. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
So
hey, you got a half right.
Halfway there.
I guess technically I also got a half right because I'm pretty sure I had Seth.
Yeah, cool.
Versus somebody else.
You had Seth Punk for the title. I had Drew Priest for the title. Okay. So we both had half right.
I'm pretty sure Seth Punk is what was supposed to happen.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Obviously, yeah.
At all if that was
I'm pretty sure
title or no
Punk
title
was supposed to win the Elimination Chamber. I think that was the original plan.
Yeah, title or no title. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if that was the plan at all.
Yeah.
What do you do with Priest if? What do you? I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, what do you do with Priest? What do you do with Judgment Day? The first couple months after, right? Maybe if Priest does have the title.
I think you can obviously do either a triple threat with Seth and Drew, or you could just do Drew. And then I think after that, it starts to get a bit murky because you want to kind of have stories that make sense. And right now, there's not much. I have Finn in my back pocket. I think the complete dissension and destruction of the Judgment Day is going to happen eventually. So you obviously have Damian versus Finn, whether it's for the title or not, down the road.
Yep.
I could certainly see... I think that Damian Priest probably wouldn't have a very long reign. I don't anticipate Damian being a guy that's going to hold it for 8 months. I think that it'd probably be pretty darn short. And I think that probably the most efficient thing would be Damian wins it at Mania, defends it at Backlash, and then maybe defends it against the other guy. Maybe you do Drew, and then at Backlash, and then Seth comes back, gets his rematch,
like Money in the Bank or something.
Yeah, Money in the Bank, and loses. Damian wins that, so you have a nice 3 to 4 months where he's beating some big main players, looks good. And then, Punk wins that match against Drew, challenges Damian Priest for the world title, and beats him because Finn cost him. Yeah. And then you could do your Damian versus Finn kind of blow-off match there.
Right.
And then Punk is your world champion, and then you could do Punk versus Seth at SummerSlam if you want to, and do all that. I think that makes the most sense, and it'd be the most efficient, because I think... While Damian Priest is very, very good, I think in the current landscape of WWE, it just wouldn't make much sense for him to be on top for very long.
Right, I agree.
Given all of the abundance of talent that you have right now.
And in all that, you didn't even mention Gunther.
No, I didn't. Because I think at this point, Gunther is a guy that, I think everybody wants him to fight for the World Championship at Bash at Berlin, which I think is great, but I think the more important thing is that he main events at Bash at Berlin. I don't think it matters for the world title. I think, quite frankly, he could defend the Intercontinental Championship and lose the Intercontinental Championship at Bash at Berlin to an Ilya Dragunov or somebody like that, or to a Chad Gable. That might be really cool. Like maybe Chad Gable would probably be the more reasonable thing at this point. And then Gunther can take a few weeks off, and then you start to have, Gunther be in that world title picture when he comes back and maybe win it next year's Mania. We've seen, usually it's the short-term storytelling that happens, and then now it's like almost stories are so stretched out that we almost can't believe it. Like I remember I sat on this podcast And I said, oh my God, they're gonna have to keep Jimmy and Jay away from each other for 7 straight months and pretend like none of this ever happened? It's gonna be forever.
They did it.
Well, here we are. And or oh my God, Cody, do we really have to wait another year for Cody to get a rematch? How are they going to tell that story? Cody's not going to be nearly as over as he is right now. Somehow they pull it off. Even if we can't see it, right?
Yeah.
It's happened. And so I can see them dragging out this Intercontinental title reign and dragging out him winning the world title until WrestleMania. And just dragging it out to where we're like, oh my God, just give him the world title already. And then it happens, right? So I can see it. Yeah. I think that makes the most sense. But yes, Gunther obviously is going to be a world champion, I think, in the next, I don't know if I'd say calendar year, because I don't know when next year's WrestleMania falls, but within the next 400 days, he's going to be a world champion.
Yeah.
Give or take, obviously. So that would be it. But I think short term, you've got to take advantage of Punk, because we've already seen he literally has had 2 matches, one on a house show and one at the Rumble, and he's blown out his arm. His body's not what it used to be. As in shape as he is, it's not what it used to be.
Get those matches while we can.
Yeah. So Punk doesn't have to have a long world title reign either. Like he doesn't. And I hate to say this because it would break my bleeding heart, but I don't think Cody needs a long reign either. I think I'd like it, but long babyface title reigns tend to get messy after a while.
Yep.
I think that, but Triple H knows that, so who knows? But anyway, I think with Seth and Drew, I think they're going to open the show. I think it's going to be great, and I think that Damian Priest is finally going to get his moment.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think we're very much in agreement there. And kind of going back to kind of the Judgment Day fracturing, I think, that's a nice segue to actually Rhea Ripley and Becky. Because I'm really been thinking about this match a lot too, and it's like the crowd is really getting behind Rhea a lot lately, and this is almost really good opportunity for Rhea just to continue to solidify. Part of me is like, it's great to see like Becky have another chance at a title, because last fall, I think it was November, she became Grand Slam champ, I think 5th or 6-1 in WWE. She hasn't had the Raw title on her for a couple years. It'd be her 3rd one. As a reign, again, I think it would continue to strengthen her legend. And honestly, it's a match that, if it wasn't for the Quad R tag match, and I'm going to stick with that as corny as it sounds, if it wasn't for the Blessed tag match, this is probably a main event of night 1. Honestly, yep. Rhea and Becky,
I think both the women's title matches could easily main event.
Yeah, definitely.
If it wasn't for The Rock.
Thanks, Rock.
Oh, dang it.
we won them, but it's like, oh. But I mean, at the same time, the fact that we get those caliber matches on this card is like, that's what makes me so excited for 2 weekends from now, because it's just going to be good match for good match for good match, except 30-minute video packages between each one. That's going to be a drag.
Yes, it will.
Anyway, I think you can use all those arguments to say like Becky can further her legend, but at the same time, it's like, Charlotte put Rhea over. Now it's Becky's turn, I think, to put her over. I'm kind of torn on who I want for this match, but I think, again, I think it can be a really good standalone match. Really good, I think both can go at each other for a while. They can both in pain. They know how to wrestle. We've seen them both put on great matches separate from each other. So I'm like, I'm still kind of torn on who I want this to win, but the way the crowd is behind Rhea, like, if she continues to win, like, I can almost see that be almost the first linchpin of Judgment Day falling apart a little bit.
Linchpin? I see what you did. Hey!
Okay.
Sorry.
It's
It's late, guys. We're losing our minds.
Totally not intended there. Wow, that's crazy.
Out of all the things you could have possibly said, I don't even know when the last time I heard linchpin, and you just use it in a Becky Lynch thing. That's hilarious.
What can I say?
This guy's a genius. Subscribe just for that. Just for the genius that we have going on here.
What are your thoughts on this match and like what this could do for both of these characters?
Okay. Oh, sorry. That was just phenomenal.
I can make your day.
Yes, perfect. Made my week, and the week just started, so we got a lot to live up to later on. So it's so funny. You and we said this multiple times that we're gonna have such different opinions on things, and I feel like we've honestly had pretty similar ways, other than like obviously. I kind of some details for like the Jimmy J stuff were different, which is fine. But I acknowledged obviously probably Jay was where they were going to go with it.
The difference are going to come next week.
Watch for sure. Please watch next week, please. So you mentioned multiple times that you're super torn. Mm-hmm. I'm not at all. I think that it's Rhea all the way, and it's not even. I think that the most likely person to retain their championship on either night is Rhea Ripley. Like, in my mind, right? I think Gunther has a chance to lose to Sammy. Not a big one, but a chance. Rhea's got less of a chance to lose to Becky, as far as I'm concerned. I think that this is the only match that I am 100% certain that the champion is going to retain. Mm-hmm. To me. Logan Paul. I would say he's probably going to retain, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah. It's Rhea Ripley is in a spot where, I think a lot of old school wrestlers would say that she's not good at her job. And the reason is because she's a heel and everybody loves her. And a lot of people are like, oh, then she's not really a good heel, is she? If everybody likes her, that means she's not doing her job well. But that's not I don't think that that's the point. I think that her character is so unbelievably authentic and so unbelievably dominant that you can't help but love her. You can't help but cheer. Yep. You can't help but marvel at her greatness at 26 years old.
Yeah.
You're talking... I mean, yes, obviously age stuff is different for women because obviously at a certain point you're going to want to have kids or possibly want to have kids, right? And things can get murky after that. But it's one of those things where, even with that, she's got a decade on top, ironically, considering she's always on top. But it's just amazing to see how well she's doing at such a young age and how much she's just got it. Yep. And we all could see it in NXT that she had all the tools. Yep. And it was just a matter of Vince not getting it for a while. But Triple H, as soon as he took charge, forget about it. I mean, you knew that she was... As soon as Triple H took over, you're like, yeah, Rhea Ripley's going to be the queen of the women's division. That's... you just knew it instantly. And sure enough, she's made herself into the most dominant woman that we've seen probably in the last decade. And other than maybe Asuka and NXT, her NXT days, she was undefeated for 600 days or something. Yeah. But I think Rhea is so in touch with the fans and so in touch with her character that Becky Lynch is not the one that needs to beat her. Becky doesn't need this. Becky's already had her WrestleMania main event moment. She's already had all of her big moments. She's already had the backlash of beating one of the young top stars very, very quickly. At a big pay-per-view before with Bianca Belair. Everyone hated that. Yeah. We were all like they had to turn Becky Lynch heel because of that. Yeah. Not good. Yeah. Everybody was like, well, she's so popular, no one will care. No. All the hardcore wrestling fans understand that Bianca Belair is going to be a main event player, and you cannot do that to your main event players. You can't just squash them to veterans. That's what WCW would do. That's what, all these companies would do that ended up going out of business, right? Just bad decisions. That's what Vince would do. Just bad stuff.
That's what Vince would see
all
the time.
Yeah, so just bad stuff. And so I don't think Becky's going to do that again. I think Rhea's got to go over. She's got to go over dominant. She's got to go over clean. There's going to be no interference. Yeah. And plus, I think down the road, I think that you got the amazing Charlotte versus Rhea rematch that you can look forward to eventually, because obviously we'll have the WWE draft, and whether it's on SmackDown, whether it's on Raw, whatever it is, we're going to probably get a Charlotte versus Rhea rematch because we never got it. Mm-hmm. And you've got Jade Cargill waiting in the wings. And I think that is just a beautifully big money match, Rhea versus Jade. Mm-hmm. I mean, goodness. And I think Jade's got to be the one that beats her. So, for me, it's one of the... that's what I had, right? I had Jade beating Rhea at WrestleMania. I don't know if WWE thinks she's not ready for that spot yet. I don't know if If they have another plan, I would like to see Jade versus Nia Jax. I'd like to see Jade have something at WrestleMania. Right. And I think as much as I can't stand Nia Jax, she has done good enough work and has been way too involved in main event stuff on Raw for way too long for her to not even have a spot at WrestleMania. Like, that would be a bit of an injustice, even though I would be fine if she never wrestled again. No offense. Okay, never mind. There's offense. So I just don't. I can't. I don't like it. But I think you've got too many stories left to tell. You've got the live stuff that you've still got to tell. We've really seen it. You've got even like a returning Sonya Deville or something like that down the road. I'd love to see a Chelsea Green Money in the Bank win and have Chelsea Green try to cash in against Rhea Ripley like 2 or 3 times, and Rhea just goes and just like smacks her down, just no, and just like beat the crap out of her and not cost her the briefcase or anything, but like something like that. And I think like, you know, Chelsea Green can be like the person that beats Bayley or something on SmackDown. Like, just takes advantage of it, and now Chelsea Green's running around SmackDown like, yes, I'm the, you know, you're just like, oh god, and then Charlotte comes back, and it's a whole thing. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But the point is I think Rhea's got to go over here, and I think that a lot of times, you know, with matches like this, you know, we've talked about it multiple times, like AJ Styles and LA Knight feels like it needs something. Maybe Jimmy and Jay kind of need something. I don't think this match needs a blessed thing. This is one of those matches that, if it's anything other than a pure one-on-one wrestling match, we're going to be disappointed. Yes. So I think that it's just pure man versus mommy, one-on-one. Let's see who's better, and the answer is Rhea Ripley.
I have something else I'm going to add to this.
Fire away, man.
And I don't know if I'm necessarily going to add it. The one thing I'm afraid of being added to this is someone you just mentioned. I'm afraid Nia Jax is going to get involved here. I hope it doesn't happen because, again, we want the one-on-one between these two. Because then if we don't, then we get a triple threat at Backlash if she's involved. But I'm honestly super afraid of Nia Jax poking her nose in this match. Yeah. I don't think she does anything. I think Rhea still becomes, you know, is victorious. Except, you know, I don't think that would help, you know, Becky at all. No. You know, I agree with you. My eventual decision was, okay, Rhea should win here. Becky, I don't know if it wouldn't hurt her, I think, if Becky won, but it would launch her so much more if Rhea did go over here. And like you said, Becky doesn't need anything else. She's a Grand Slam champ. She sold everything. She does everything long time, multiple times. You know, there's really not much left for her to do. She's already had to, you know, again, the main event WrestleMania stuff for her. You know, and I think the way the crowd just gets around Rhea right now, you know, all that just fuels that. And I hope it doesn't happen. I don't think it will happen. But I am afraid of, I'm just afraid of Nia being involved in this match somehow, and it turned into triple threat at Backlash, and then then it just doesn't help out anybody. Yeah, you know, maybe I'm still jaded by Vince McMahon, and he's not obviously around, and maybe that sounds like, cause I feel like that's kind of a Vince thing to do. I don't think.
Well, the Vince thing would be to bring back Charlotte from injury 2 days before the pay-per-view, and then announce it on social media. Charlotte's been added to the match. Isn't that what everybody wanted? You're welcome. And then everybody would be like, no, not what we wanted. So here's what I'm predicting here. So obviously, if it does happen like this, then we won't be able to talk about it on our predictions, our official predictions, because it will be an open challenge. I think Nia Jax is not going to get what she wants. I think that the fact that Becky beat her in a last woman standing match, I think that kind of, it's meant to effectively say to you, Nia is out. Now, I don't know if Nia will take that laying down necessarily, and Raw is happening as we're recording. We're recording this on Monday night. So we don't really know what stories they're going to be telling here. But I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, Nia just starts trying to politic and try and get herself into the match, and Adam Pearce keeps refusing and saying no, and then, you know, she comes out at WrestleMania, like, you know, there's nothing going on, and then her music hits, she just walks down to the ring and is ticked off, just angry that she's not going to get a title match. She says, you know what, I'm going to take my anger out on somebody in the back. If anybody's got the dang courage to come out here and take me on when I'm this ticked off and I'm this angry, come right down, it'll be your funeral. Jade Cargill. And then everybody's like, oh boy, you made a big mistake. And then Jade will obviously beat Nia, hopefully relatively quickly and easily. Because if you still
saw what happened at
because if you still don't think she's ready, I'm pretty sure she can have a 2-minute match. Yeah. Pretty sure she could figure out a way to have a 2-minute match.
She is technically now officially a SmackDown star, so.
Is she? Is it official now?
Yeah, because this whole contract thing that they've done now with new players, I don't know if that. I don't think what you're saying could it not happen. Because I think you could pull it off between these two, and then we don't see them back together again.
Really, you didn't need her on SmackDown. You already brought Tiffany Stratton and Naomi over there. You could have brought her to Raw, but whatever.
Yeah.
I still think that it would be good, regardless of brand logistics.
Yeah.
I genuinely did not know that it had been official. I know that she had been backstage negotiating. I didn't know if she'd officially
I think she
signed
or
anything. Okay. Well, if she has, then obviously that might make things a bit difficult. But whatever, I'm still going to keep it. I just think that you should have Jade versus Nia, and if you don't have Jade versus Nia, please give me Jade versus Bianca. Oh, that'd be so much fun. But again, this is making me feel like they don't think Jade is ready for that spot. And you with Jade versus Nia, you can have a 2-minute squash match because Nia Jax does not get squashed. She does the squashing. So you can have a 2-minute match with Jade Cargill and Nia Jax and have it accomplish leaps and bounds more than a 20-minute match ever will.
Yeah.
It would be such an injustice to Bianca Belair to have it be a 2-minute squash match against Jade Cargill. That would not be okay. As much as I love Jade, and as much as she will have, I will be well, it's Jade Cargill, kind of makes sense. I think that it would just not be cool. I think that if you were to do that match, Bianca versus Jade, it would have to be, the two of them are equals. Which one of them's going to win?
Yeah.
And if Jade's not ready, it's going to show against Bianca.
Yeah.
It's going to show real bad against Bianca.
And I honestly think that with SmackDown, I think she gets a couple quick squash matches on SmackDown against some of the bottom tier of the women's roster there. And you eventually build to Bianca and Jade somehow. We don't need a title, don't need a contendership amongst those, but where you get 2 or 3 matches out of them, where, you do whatever you want with, a couple matches between them, but you make it a good, strong series of matches between those 3.
Yep.
With there. So
speaking of SmackDown and women,
yes, our other women's title match.
What a transition, folks! Subscribe for the pro level transitions.
We work on them all night. It's the first thing we work on before we start recording.
Oh man! Oh god!
Yeah, the numbers game is what worries me in this match. It's what Nia worries me in that the other match. The numbers game is worries me.
Io Sky and Bailey, just in case we didn't say that.
Yes, Io Sky and Bailey. For that women's championship, which I can't keep those names straight now anymore either. Io's title. We talked about this before, I believe. Asuka, Kairi, they don't have a match as of yet, as of this record. So I think but I think regardless of if they have a match or not, I think they are still potential threats in this match. I feel like Io's had a not boring run, but
she's never defended the title.
Yeah, she has.
Early on, but lately she hasn't.
No, I think, and I know I brought that up somewhere here with my tabs. Last time she defended it was
obviously not in
January. Wow, yeah, so it has been a while.
It's been a while.
The New Year's Revolution. Obviously there was another match since then. So,
and then before that, I feel like it was November.
It was Crown Jewel. Yep. So Crown Jewel, New Year's Revolution, and then you have to go back to when Charlotte wasn't.
And Crown Jewel was when? October?
November.
Was that November?
First week of November.
Okay, first week of November. Yeah. So you went. We have had since November, which was 4.5 months ago. We've had 2 title defenses.
Yeah, she's had 6 in all.
6 in all, and she's had the title since Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
Or no, not Money in the Bank. The pay-per-view
SummerSlam.
SummerSlam. So that's 6 months.
Yep.
So that's 1 title defense a month.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not
that's
the worst.
That's 8 months.
Yeah, 8 months. That's not even 1 a month. I mean, it's just not enough.
That's better. That's a better track record than Roman Reigns.
Barely. Barely.
Well, I mean, as far as have they only defended so often.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, and she defended it against Zelina Vega once.
What an intriguing match that must have been.
She defended it against Michin at New Year's Revolution.
Yeah.
New Year's Revolution, What I do find interesting, though, she has defended against Charlotte twice, once one-on-one, once in a triple threat. She's defended against Asuka twice. For Asuka became part of Damage Control. Again, once one-on-one, and that she was a part of the triple threat with her and Charlotte Flair. So Io, Charlotte, and Asuka, and that triple threat. And that triple threat was at Fastlane last year. That was October 1. She's had I would say decent title defenses. She's had top names. She had a defense against Bianca, but again, she hasn't defended since January 1st, or not first Friday of January, whatever date that was.
Yeah, and it's been almost 3 months since we've seen a defense.
What if the numbers game plays a part here? And this is just be truly just kind of coming out of left field with this. What I would think would be interesting is who actually comes to Bayley's aid. Because that's what we've been trying. That's what they've been showcasing on SmackDown. First it was Naomi. Then Bianca hasn't really come out to her defense, but Bianca's kind of starting to sympathize with Bayley more. I find it interesting that when I looked at it to refresh remember it, those title defenses, like Asuka's a part of Damage Control, but she's had 2 title matches against Io before she came Damage Control. Did she join Damage Control to do what Bayley's doing? Bayley just beat her to the punch. So I don't think it will happen at WrestleMania. It probably won't even happen down the road, but I think if anybody were to come to her defense more than anybody, I could see Asuka actually coming to Bayley's defense. Maybe. Again, I don't know. I don't think it would happen at Mania here. But I think that little nugget to me is like everything counts. We like to know that everything counts here.
Yeah.
In the Triple H era, and we've been surprised by weirder things. So I think there's a possibility. Bayley hasn't held a title since 2020. So I think her having the title, would be good for her. We haven't seen a title for a while. I know she was off TV for a little bit though too as part of that. I think, there's still a couple of SmackDown episodes to where maybe Nick Aldis does something so they're banned from ringside or something. So that is a true one-on-one match. This is one of those matches where I'm not really sure what to expect because, I think we both expected Dakota Kai to be on Bayley's side, but, Dakota Kai was kind of like, yeah, maybe, no, I'm not. I'm going to come back with everybody else. So I'm really less like, this is the one story where I feel like, what are they trying to tell here? And so what are your thoughts here? What do you think they're...
Well, I think certainly Naomi has inserted herself into the story, so at least Bayley has one ally as of right now. And the problem right now that I'm seeing is kind of similar to what you had, which is, the numbers game is still 4-on-2.
Yep.
So, who the heck do you have at this point that's going to stand up to Damage Control outside of Bayley and Naomi? And on SmackDown, you brought several new women onto your roster, which is great because I know we've sat on this podcast and talked about the lack of depth on SmackDown for the women's division. Unfortunately, I think you could have had Shotzi maybe, but she's unfortunately down for the count because there's already a story there. She already doesn't like Damage Control, but she also doesn't like Bayley either.
Right.
So that could have been like a little thing where like Bayley's like, I know we've had differences in the past, but I need your help right now because this Damage Control is way worse than what I was doing by a lot. Like they're gonna really cause some havoc, and maybe could have had Shotzi. Maybe this is where you have Charlotte come back if she's ready. I don't know if she is or not.
I don't think so.
I don't think she is either, but and if that's the case, so no Shotzi, no Charlotte. Tiffany Stratton's a bad guy. Why? Like you're not gonna have that. You already have Naomi, which was your other new person that you brought in.
Yep.
What else do you have? I mean, there's not a whole lot of options that I'm seeing right now. So I think, the only thing that I can surmise is that Bayley's just going to have to overcome 4-on-2, I guess. I mean, that's the only thing that I can see, which, I'm fine with that story. because she at one point was the ultimate underdog herself.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
for
She's
the
been in
women's
this role
division.
before.
So, you know, it's not like she's incapable of telling that story. She certainly is. Probably better than just about anybody outside of Sammy on the roster, or maybe Chad. So, you know, it's difficult for me to kind of see where that's going to go. We'll probably get some more answers this next upcoming couple of weeks. Maybe Bianca comes around.
Maybe.
I know that, but that's I don't know if that's really a great use of Bianca.
I don't.
Bianca's
think so.
way too big of a star to just be a side character in a feud that she's been in for the last 7 months.
Right, and I mean,
you know,
you want to keep her as, I think, a contender for whoever comes out of this as champion.
Yeah.
And not necessarily right away, but down the road. No, and that's, to me, this is just, it's honestly kind of one of the harder matches to pick in a sense, just because you can go so many different ways with a story that services both. You know, again, ultimate underdog with Bayley. I think she was definitely that role before even Chad or Sammy, but you know, she's kind of the women's
about the same time as Sammy, but yeah.
Yeah, but you know, it's kind of like the women's roster version of Sammy in the sense of like, don't count them out. You never know what's going to happen with them.
Yep.
You know, I just, you know, unless they just force the Kabuki Warriors into a tag match right before this match, which I don't think they do that on the card, but who knows? To me, they're involved. Maybe not even physically, maybe just causing distractions, popping up and down on the ropes and stuff, one at a time, taking turns, you know, whatever, just causing dumb little distractions or whatever. You know, and with those distractions, you know, I actually have Io retaining here. I want to, especially after that Rumble win, like seeing the title on Bayley would be great. I just, you know, the way they've painted the numbers game to me, it's just like, yeah, she's also an underdog, but again, it's, you know, 4 versus 2, and honestly 4 versus 1 because, you know, I don't know if Naomi is quite enough to even provide a ton of help. You know what I mean? So I just, you know, or she can neutralize Dakota Kai, but then they still have, you know, Kyrie and Asuka to deal with. So
sure.
I have you retaining here.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's fair. I do not. I have Bayley winning. I don't know how. I don't know what story it is, but I would just be heartbroken for Bayley if she lost. I mean, I think that, I mean, yeah, I guess she technically has won and retained a championship at WrestleMania before. This is years and years and years ago. And I'm not sure if I'm nuts, but I feel like that was was it a 4 horsewomen fatal 4-way at WrestleMania? Or maybe it was just like Bayley versus Charlotte versus Sasha or something like that. But it was somewhere in that, it was something like that for Bayley. And she won. So, I mean, I guess that's your WrestleMania moment, but I think the fact that I can't remember is story enough. The fact that it's not as memorable as it needs to be. I think Bayley needs this. She deserves this. She's worked so bloody hard and been so underrated for so long.
Yes.
That I think that she just deserves it. And I think that the Damage Control heel faction chasing the belt again would be an interesting story to tell. And I think that you can start to... I don't think the story's done if Bayley wins at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. I think it is done if she doesn't win. And I don't want the story to be done just yet.
And I guess with my line of thinking right now, too, the numbers game, but I feel like you could use that numbers game to continue the feud for either... it's a feud where I wouldn't mind that going to Backlash, because I feel like you could still get a good payoff at Backlash. And at Backlash, you know, that's where you definitely ban, you know, Damage Control from ringside.
Yeah.
You know, that could very well happen. Like, I kind of wish that would have happened by now already, but maybe the way, you know, maybe we see that happen on this week's SmackDown to where they do get barred because, you know, of all the stuff that's been going on, to where it's like 4v1s for so many weeks and people are trying to help, but everybody's like, poor Bayley, we don't know what to do. And Nick Aldis is like saying, we need this as a pure championship one-on-one match. If you guys interfere, whatever, you can't, or interfere and I strip you of the tag titles or something like that, So, I would like it to be a one-on-one match. I think one-on-one, Bayley definitely wins. Definitely would be. I'm in favor of Bayley winning no matter what. You just
can't see it possible.
Currently, as things are aligned, and if something changes this Friday, I'll change. Maybe I'll change my pick when we record next week.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's and I don't know what you said too is like Damage Control could still pursue the title if Bayley were to win at Mania, and I think then you kind of even get into a discussion of is Damage Control going to re-implode? Because then it's like, well, all three of those women would want the championship. So it's like Asuka's obviously been a title holder before. Io had it for 8 months already, 7 or 8 months now. So that can make for a lot of fun storylines too if Bayley does win. And you got a deeper roster again that's waiting for whoever comes out of Mania or Backlash, to continue good, a lot more stories with to, outside of Damage Control. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bayley won, but at this point I just can't. I can't pick Bayley. I'm going to go with you.
I understand, and this would have been a perfect Mercedes Moné spot. Where Naomi and Bayley were just getting the tar beat out of them at WrestleMania money. And then she comes out and everybody goes bananas. She clears house. Bayley wins. Yep. The two best friends hug. It's a whole big thing. And then Sasha hits her with a chair because she can only be friends with Bayley for 11 seconds. Or else the world implodes or something. I don't know. Like something. It would have been perfect. But unfortunately, she decided to go where no one really cared. Which is freaking upsetting. Like, I don't know if you've read those stories, but, viewership was not where they wanted it. The crowds sold out, but, they apparently weren't the best crowds. And then, the viewership on the...
The announcer in Boston, right?
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really rough, where, the viewership wasn't very good. It just was bad, and then they're dragging Edge through the mud where he they showed a picture of his. It was a pretty cool promo, honestly, where he brought out I know we're talking AEW here, I'm sorry, but he brought out a 2x4 covered in nails named Spike. That was its name, and he was talking right into the camera, and they actually took a picture of it was behind Adam Copeland, and it was looking out to where he was facing, so it was behind the hard cam. There's nobody in the crowd. I mean, it's crazy how empty the arena is, and it's one of those things that you sit there and barely anybody, and it's just like, oh my god, this is like WWE in 2012 and 13 when there was nobody at the shows. And, I mean, it's rough. It is rough right now. Now, obviously, AEW is going to figure it out here quickly because they've signed Kazuchika Okada, Will Ospreay, Mercedes Moné. They've got Edge, obviously, or Adam Copeland now. They've got some good pieces. But, boy, howdy. And MJF's going to come back, and I'm sure that'll help. I mean, yeah, there's a bidding war of 2024, but I don't think any of us really thought that was ever real.
Yeah.
As much as I'd love to see him.
The rumors are true. Yeah. He signed a new contract a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Before even 2024 hit. He was trying to build stuff up. And apparently his recovery isn't even going that great.
Yeah, I know. God, I hope he gets better. I hope he gets better because he is right now the most, outside of Cody, who obviously has a lot more skin in the game and a lot more years under his belt. MJF is the most complete wrestler on the planet right now. When it comes to age, the ability to talk, the ability to tell a story, the ability to wrestle.
The ability to talk. I mean,
he's got everything. I
don't watch a lot of AEW, but whenever I enjoy watching his promos more than I thought I would.
Yeah, he's got everything. I mean, and the fact that, I think he probably cut the second best promo that I've ever seen in my entire life, and he's 25. Nuts how good he is. Anyway, that's my MJF rant, but... Moving on to U.S. Championship. I think it's the last one, right?
Yeah, U.S. title, last one for tonight. the physicality of this match, I think, is going to be bonkers.
Oh, yeah.
Logan Paul has been taking spots, more and more spots, every single match. He sells well. You'd think Logan Paul, and I hate singing his praises in one way, you would think Logan Paul has been doing this for the last 6-8 years, not the last 2.
I think 3 now.
3?
I think because it was the tag match. The tag match with Miz, and then it was him versus...
Simon Rollins were Mania last year, wasn't it?
Yes, that was last year, but he had a match, I think it made the Mania before that too, I think.
Yeah, I believe so. That's
I
why I'm
don't
not
remember
sure
who
if
he
it's true.
faced, though.
But to the point of,
I'm blanking.
He's wrestling well. He's learning every time he gets out there. Obviously, KO, we both know and both love how he can go long matches, physical matches. He looks like you might be able to count him out. He's like, nope, I still got this, man. Mm-hmm. Orton's obviously big and ready to take a lot of bumps from his recovery and stuff. Kind of like, I think I said this earlier, to where it's like Orton and Styles, I almost kind of thought they were, getting a little extra jack just for some rumbles with Roman, but I almost kind of wondered if this was, if they knew the long-term plans of where they're going to be at Mania, and it's like, I'm taking some bumps with them, guys that can go, and it's like, I'm getting older and can't take much anymore, but it's like, so I better get a little more size on me, so, it's, I think of, like, Randy's match with Edge, was dubbed as the greatest, kind of as the homage of greatest wrestling, the match that was dubbed, that was, I think the Pandemic Mania.
I think that was on a Backlash. I don't even think that was at Mania.
Was it on a Mania? But you know what match I'm talking
about.
I know
like
the trailers and everything, they put on a really cool show.
I think Edge tore his tricep in that match or something like that. Edge blew something up in his body, whatever it was. He did.
I've been wanting to rewatch that match because I don't think I appreciated that as much, that match at the time. Cause
sure. The greatest wrestling match of all time.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous.
But I mean, I think that's probably what I want to watch because I feel like that it was kind of taken the wrong way back then, and now I think we're looking at it as like it's almost an homage to wrestling because they did so many different types of things throughout that match. Sure. But I mean, all 3 of these guys can go. I'm very curious to see how the crowd reacts to both KO and Randy throughout the match. Because obviously they're going to hate Logan. But I mean, people enjoy Randy as a babyface more and more. Yep. Obviously KO is well beloved. I think of the 3, probably the most beloved. This match.
I don't know. Everybody loves Randy, man.
Yeah, but
I certainly love KO more than Randy, but I don't know about.
I
don't know about like KO casual fans. I feel like casual
fans probably know Randy more. Obviously, Randy's been around, multi-generational star and stuff. Yeah. So I mean, he's also, and they both have. I was about to say Randy has, but KO, both of them have played the heel and babyface back and forth role well before. Randy was more of a heel for more of his career, I feel, but where it's only like the recent few years, and especially the run with Riddle that kind of really endeared him as a babyface to more people than has before. But I feel like people have enjoyed KO no matter what persona he's kind of put on.
Sure.
To me, the biggest thing I'm curious to see how this match goes is. How KO and Randy coexist throughout the match. I think the first half of the match, they're just going to take their turns beating up on Paul. And eventually, he's just going to roll out the ring and like, you guys go at it, and then he'll take advantage, as he perfectly will. Yep. He'll try to take advantage at certain points, but, thinking, you're seeing it as like, Randy lines up for, his smooth, quick power slam, and Logan steps out of the ring right at the right time as KO's coming into the ring, and it's he power slams KO instead of Paul, and finally gets those two kind of going at each other. Paul takes his breather, takes advantage. How do you see this match playing out?
Oh, you're gonna like this one. All right, folks, bear with me. I'm gonna start this by saying a disclaimer. There is a 0% chance that this happens. 0. Literally 0.
If this happens, for a long
if this happens, somebody at WWE needs to pay me because I literally can tell the future. Because there's zero chance that what I'm about to say happens. But you cannot tell me when I'm done that this is not something that you would love to see. Okay? We got 2 weeks. Figure it out, WWE. Here we go. On this upcoming SmackDown, Logan Paul comes out and says, triple threat, huh? You know what? That's fine. But you know what that means? There's no rules. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you my strategy right now. I'm going to have a pair of brass knuckles. I'm going to knock out Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, and I'm going to win. It's going to be that simple. You're not going to get your 20-minute match that you love. You're not going to get a knockdown, drag-out thing and KO stunning me into RKO, and then he picks me up and stuns me again. No, I'm just going to knock them both out and go home. It's going to be like a really bad UFC fight. Where it's all this build, and the guy that you love gets knocked out in 2 seconds. That's what's going to happen. And Nick Aldis comes out, and he says, now, Logan, while I can't change the rules of a triple threat match, I can implement things that will hopefully stop you from being a douchebag, basically. And therefore, I have appointed a special guest referee for this match. And that special guest referee is Stone Cold Steve Austin. Why Stone Cold Steve Austin? Literally just because at the end of the match, I want Stone Cold Steve Austin to stun Logan Paul and dump a bunch of beer on that stupid Prime advertisement in the middle of the ring. Please let Stone Cold come out and stun Logan Paul, and then dump a bunch of beer on the Prime logo. Just because WWE probably knows there's a large section of fans that hate that that's going to be a thing, but they're not going to change it, because that's what UFC does. They did it. So you might as well let Stone Cold, who is basically all of our heroes, just dump a bunch of beer on it. Just once. Just for the first one. Just so that we can get all that anger out of our system. You know what I mean? And plus, he could just come out and be like, so you're a YouTube star, right? Yeah, I'm just gonna kick your butt. Well, he can't say butt. You know what he's gonna say, right? I'm not gonna curse on this podcast, but you know what I mean. Like this, I would just love to see that dynamic of Stone Cold Steve Austin, like. Logan Paul goes to use the brass knuckles and Stone Cold just intimidates Logan Paul into submission, basically. Like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to, It just, gets, you can have Logan Paul accidentally run into Stone Cold at some point in the match or whatever and knock him down for a little bit, and he can use the brass knuckles, and, Stone Cold will be like, hey, you use the brass knuckles, that's not cool. And he's like, sorry, I'm a douche. That's what I do. I cheat and blah. You want to have a beer? And then he goes, yeah, let's have a beer. And then Logan Paul, swaps it out with a Prime last minute. And Stone Cold, laughs at it, but then he looks at him all serious and he stuns him and he dumps a bunch of beer on the Prime thing. I would love to see that so freaking much. Again, 0% chance that is happening. But somebody, you can't tell me that's not a great idea. You can't tell me that you wouldn't love to see Stone Cold dump a bunch of beer on a Prime bottle.
Very funny.
Yeah. Not going to happen. Speaking of bottle, I'm knocking mine over. But it would be so much fun. And that's the way I have it in my brain. Again, it's not going to happen. So with all that fun, I'm going to tell you what I actually think is going to happen. I think it's just going to be a good triple threat match. I think it's going to be one of those things where Randy and KO just double team Logan Paul a bunch at the beginning, put him through the announce table, and then it's basically a one-on-one match between Kevin and Randy. Logan Paul comes in at the very end, uses the brass knuckles, knocks out Randy Orton, pins him, and then that's your retention. And then that's pretty much it. And then, it's interesting because, we've talked quite a bit about a lot of the, what's going to happen after WrestleMania. I think, Logan Paul, he's probably going to take some time off. He's probably going to be off TV for a little while. I think that you're probably going to do an LA Knight versus AJ Styles rematch. Although I don't know where they really go from there. If you're gonna do like an unsanctioned match, I feel like that's like
if you get to
end game type deal. But I think that I think down the road, eventually Logan Paul's it's gonna be LA Knight. I think, maybe, but then with KO and Randy, like where do they go from here? Like that's an interesting. You have an answer. I'd love to hear it.
Well, and I'll go to the Logan Paul thing because my thought on like how this title match plays out at the end, who wins, I have Logan Paul retaining as well. So we're actually a lot more agreement on the side. I think on the end result of a lot of things, but I think the same thought there. It's Orton I think is the least likely one of the three. I think KO could win this match, but I think it comes down to Paul retaining. My biggest thing of getting to that point was, if we want LA Knight to have the U.S. title at some point, if WWE wants him to have the title at some point this year, SummerSlam, Money in the Bank, November Saudi match, whatever PLE, Backlash, Bash in Berlin, whatever PLE you want to do it there, it would go, I think, a lot more over for LA Knight to beat someone of Logan Paul versus someone of KO. Not that KO would be a bad matchup for LA Knight. Maybe that's a number one contendership that we get to at some point. It's like KO still hasn't had a rematch for 1-on-1. He wants it. LA Knight's like, I deserve a championship match after what I went through with AJ Styles. Maybe that's what we do there. That's how LA Knight gets to Logan Paul. Honestly, I kind of like the Orton Kevin Owens team ups that we've had last
I would love them to be RKO. Like that would be a great tag team name.
And I think there's something that's there that they could, I don't think you'd have a lot of matches, a super long story. But at least I think in the short term, put him, pair him with A-Town Downtown for a little bit. Let's get some good bangers with those guys. So they kept interfering with both their matches. Let's get
I'm fine with that.
Let's get some take stuff on the line there.
Or you could just put Kevin Owens on full-time commentary. I can hear that man do commentary all day.
Pat McAfee and Kevin Owens on commentary. That's all I about
peeing my pants when Kevin Owens was like, "I'm gonna untie his shoe." Like, who comes in? She's like, "I'm just gonna." I untied his shoe. Like, it's just so dumb.
A three-man pin of commentary once Punk is retired would be awesome between KO, Punk, and Pat McAfee.
Oh my god!
Tell me you wouldn't love that.
The banter would just be ridiculous.
They wouldn't even talk about the match.
Nope.
Kevin Owens and Punk would probably just hate on each other. And McAfee's like, yeah. I love it. But yeah, no, I think short-term direction, I think KO, Orton, I think you could team them up for a little bit, take matches, get Grayson Waller over a little bit more. Not that he needs to, but, I feel like we haven't had a lot of, there hasn't been a lot of opportunities to get true tag matches with those two guys personally. As much as I don't really care for them, I think if you blow off a few matches with all four of those, you can honestly launch all four of those guys off in different directions. And you probably have to do it like in the draft, but to where that title. And I think to me, I think once you put that U.S. title on LA Knight, you can bring up Waller to be his first opponent. You can bring in KO as be an opponent. You can bring in Austin Theory to be an opponent at some point, all at separate times or whatever, and you keep that pool together where they're all together still. But yeah, no, I that is kind of an interesting thing what to do with Orton and KO. Post Mania, I don't think post Backlash, but post Mania, it's like, do we see Orton take a little more time off again? He's been through a lot of grueling matches. He was in a chamber, and he didn't, kayfabe real, who knows, but, he doesn't really come out of that in great shape, it looked like, and stuff. So, it's, I think it's, I think it'll be a fun match, between these three. Again, very physical. I could I'd almost like to see, like, KO just step aside for the first minute or two of the match and be like, Orton, I know how much you want to get revenge on Logan Paul for Chamber. Have at it. I'll come back in a minute.
Fair enough.
I'm going to do a couple laps around the ring, and I'll come back in and help you punish him more. Okay, my turn. Randy can go take a couple laps.
Yep, exactly. Randy Orton just leans up against the barricade, just drinking water from somebody else's cup in the crowd. Just like, so, how you been?
Gets the kids to beer from Stone Cold.
How are the kids? Yeah.
So it's very interesting. We've actually been online for most of these matches.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to be very out of line not tomorrow. Good grief, not tomorrow at all. Next week. I certainly, just because, one, we don't know what the matches are going to be, all of them anyway, and then two, I think certainly we're going to have some different ideas on the way the Rock and Cody's story
and I think
going to go.
And those matches are so intertwined with each other. I mean, the Seth, the Drew one, Jimmy J match are intertwined with those, but the tag match itself can so much affect the actual match to where I feel like that's where when we were talking about trying to set up these two podcasts, I think it was nice to put that more on the second night, just in case one more wrinkle or two comes in before we record that one, because by the time we record that one, we'll only have the go-home show on SmackDown to really worry about, and that's probably just going to be, a couple Battle Royales and stuff nobody really cares about.
Yeah.
On that SmackDown in Philly, but hopefully we have all the details of how those matches are going to go, but that tag match is going to feed so much into how everything plays out on night 2. And the Universal title match, but so much on night 2 itself. Where it's like, I kind of do hope that Jimmy J is a night 2, because a lot of these guys are going to be pulling a lot of, and I can't. And do you remember a time where so many guys pulled so many matches? I mean, we haven't had a WrestleMania 2 nights for a long time, but we're even on a one PLE where so many guys, where at least more than one or two people were in multiple matches in some fashion or another. Outside of the ringer that they threw Daniel Bryan in back in the day.
Yeah, I was about to say Daniel Bryan does come to mind. Certainly. Outside of that, not that I can recall. I don't recall guys wrestling more than once at one WrestleMania. Obviously, you had your Stone Cold was in the main event of night 1, and then he came out afterwards in a match at night 2, or whatever the case may be. But I don't recall Roman and Cody are going to be wrestling twice, and I think that goes to show the kind of stars that they are, and the sacrifices that they are making to kind of piece this show together from what it was. I of course doubt that if Punk did not get hurt and Seth did not get hurt the way he had, then that this night would go in, that the matches would be the same. Now, I guess it's possible. You could have had Punk versus Seth on night 2 instead of Drew, and Drew could do whatever. I'm not sure what Drew would have done.
Right.
But yeah, I can't recall it. But again, it goes to show the star power that we have, and I think the more beautiful thing is that everybody feels so important now. I think that was such a weakness in the recent Vince years. It was, you had your couple of top guys that felt really important, and nobody else's story felt important at all.
Yep.
But this year,
that's why we never had
everyone's
legit contenders for anything. That's why nobody ever felt like they're a legit contender for everything. It was like, where do I fit? And now it feels like people are fit or feel like they have a chance to fit into some kind of storyline for any of the titles. Not even for a title. It's just, it's like we're getting storylines, and that's where wrestling gets good. It's like when you get these storylines like AJ and LA Knight, to where it's like you don't need a title for these two guys, just to go have a slobber knocker fest.
Oh yeah,
that's gonna be great. I think that might be the most underrated match of the card.
It could be, certainly.
So sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say either that, or I think it's gonna be a 6-man tag between the Final Testament and Bobby and Street Profits. And just because I love the Street Profits so much, I think that they're honestly gonna do well. The thing that really bugs me more than anything is that the Creed brothers are not gonna be in that ladder match. I think that they look so freaking good on Raw against DIY, and I remember my wife was sitting there watching it with me, and she goes, "This is really good." I said, "Yeah, it stinks that the Creed brothers aren't going to be at WrestleMania." And she goes, "Why not?" And I said, "Because they're not going to win this match. It's going to be like Triple H sits there and goes, Brutus and Julius are in their 20s. Johnny and Tommaso have been here for 10 freaking years, grinding, waiting, scratching and clawing for that opportunity to wrestle at WrestleMania, and they never had a chance. Of course those two Triple H guys are going to get that shot this year. And that just means that the Creed brothers are not in the match, and they are, as I know this is going to be a bold claim, they are the best tag team in WWE right now. Talent-wise, skill-wise. They are number one. There's no other tag team that is technically in the ring better than they are. And they are not going to be able to be on WrestleMania. No. Like, they showed that on Monday. They are so darn good in the ring. It's scary. And they've always been that good. In NXT, they were that good. It's criminal that they're not going to be on WrestleMania. That bothers me more than anything. But who knows? Maybe they'll do a last chance tag match or something, and that team will get in. But I don't think so, because I'm pretty sure they said all the Raw teams are in, and then it's just the two SmackDown teams that have to get in. So I'm pretty sure they're not in. They're not going to be on WrestleMania, and that really rubs me the wrong way, because they're so darn good. Now, obviously, they have plenty of years to be on WrestleMania, and I'm sure next year the Creed brothers are going to be major players. But right now, it's just sad that they were so good in all their spots, and they've done so well in every match. Although I will say the Judgment Day tag match for the tag titles was not very good, and they seemed to botch a couple of things. So maybe that has to do with it. But every other thing that they've been in has been spectacular. That match against DIY tore the house down. It was the best match of the night, and it wasn't particularly close. And I just think that they deserve to be on WrestleMania. That bothers me.
And so SmackDown's going to get us to those last two teams. The matchups to get into the 6-team tag is one matchup is Street Profits versus Theory and Waller, and the New Catch Republic versus Legado del Fantasma.
Cool. So my guess is it's going to be the New Catch Republic and Theory and Waller, because I think you need a heel team in there, and then also Street Profits are going to have another match at Mania.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, well, I think we'll talk about that. You know, it's kind of one of those things I'm kind of anticipating as well, is that we get a Final Testament Street Profits match at WrestleMania. That's going to be kind of one of your fill-in matches just to kind of fill out the rest of the card. I think there. Yep. The other team, too, that's not going to be in this tag team match is Pretty Deadly as well. And they made their case last Friday as well. It's like, tag match, why aren't we a part of it? And it's like, I feel like that they're almost kind of the Creed brothers of SmackDown, where it's like, you could argue they might be the most talented on that roster.
I mean, they're very entertaining. I'm not sure in ring-wise if I would put them... Yeah.
But the entertainment factor is right.
Yeah, entertainment for sure, 100%. They deserve to be in there, but... Unfortunately, that's not the direction that they're going, and it is what it is. But we're going to save the rest of our thoughts on all of that stuff and more for next week.
I'm not going to say this. You don't have to say this either, but do you want to... This apparently came through on Raw tonight.
Okay. I mean, should we say it now? I mean, this isn't going to come out until later this week. So.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Everybody's going to know by the time this comes out anyway.
You brought this up earlier in the podcast.
So I'll just say it. I brought it up earlier. I think CM Punk should be a commentator for the Seth Drew match, and apparently on Raw, he was in Chicago. So he came out there and he said that CM Punk was going to be a commentator at WrestleMania. Now, I don't know, obviously, if he is going to commentate a specific match, if he is going to commentate the entire night, or one of the entire nights, I suppose, or both. I don't know what's going to happen there. Obviously, I'll have to go and watch the videos and kind of go back, because obviously we're recording this during Raw, but it does seem like it is a possibility of what I said earlier coming to fruition, where he will possibly be the commentator for that Seth versus Drew match.
Yeah, Seth. Yeah, it probably looks like for at least the Seth, because it looks like they came out during when Punk came out, kind of a little bit. So I just wanted to show that, because I was like, hey, something you were like kind of wanting for. Hey, it's come true. So I know we've gone a little bit here, but I did want to throw that in a little bit, right at the end here, just to say.
Fair enough.
One of your things has already come true.
There you go.
Kudos to you.
Well, halfway. He may not commentate that match, but it certainly seems.
Yeah, but I mean, if those guys were involved in what he was doing on Monday, which again we'll have to watch the videos and stuff, very good possibility he's definitely commentating during that match as well.
Fair enough.
Remains to be seen, but again, that's just fun. He's got a mouth, So, I mean, he's going to be a joy to have on commentary. And it's good to see him involved, even if he can't be in a match. And I can't believe we're saying this, because when the first couple podcasts we did, we talked about Punk, and I'm just like, I don't want to see him at SummerSlam. But, or Survivor Series. Showed up, and I'm along for the ride now. I think I admitted that before, so...
he seems to be a lot happier now. The locker room environment seems to be more of something that he can kind of latch on to from what it was before, and obviously they're taking good care of him medically and everything like that now. It's night and day. The Punk that's here now versus who was in AEW. I mean, AEW is bitter, resentful, jealous, not great, and then obviously now seems to be much happier. But that's going to do it, folks. Long time talking about this stuff, but it's all for a good cause. We love this stuff. We care about it. We hope you guys do too. Let us know what you guys thought of everything that we talked about in the comments section. I would love to hear all of your thoughts, and I cannot wait until next week. It's going to be so much fun. Probably more fun than this week, and this week was great. But
we might be punching each other. Actually,
I hope not, because I will lose. I will lose that battle very quickly.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
So hopefully, tune in next week to see Dan and I punch each other. It's going to be great. No,
we could recreate the slaps of Cody and Rock.
Oh God, yeah, we could. Yeah. Just a big old slap fight. Kidding. Yeah, just one of our wives can referee. That'll work. Or the dog. The dog can referee.
Moose can referee.
Moose can referee.
I'll have Reggie in my corner. You can have Moose.
There you go. Thank you all so much for watching. Oh man,
we're off the rails.
We'll see you next time.